Bonjour, hi, welcome back to day 2 of the Montreal 24 sur 24 Sommet ou la nuit. My name is Laura Beeston. I am the co-director of programming here at the Summit, and I'm so delighted to welcome you all to this very special keynote today about the Republic of Uzupis, a micronation of artists. We are so excited to welcome Gleb Divov to join us virtually. He is an inventor, creative technologist, creative AI, and NFT pioneer, so doing this hybrid situation is okay. He is also the Minister of Culture and Innovations of the Republic of Uzupis in Vilnius, Lithuania, the world's most innovative micronation, which has been independent since 1998. We are so happy he's here. Gleb, hello, are you connected with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Welcome. I'm going to let you...
Happy to be with you.
Yeah, I'm going to let you take it away. Thank you.
Okay, let's try. So first question, the slides are here, and it's okay. So I guess to start with, I need to make a small introduction about what is it, and who am I, and so on and so on. So I'll start with Republic of Uzupis. Republic of Uzupis is the small republic located in the district of the same name, pronounced as Uzupis. District is historically popular with artists and known internationally largely because on April 1st, 1998, we proclaimed independence, and the republic appeared out of the blue. And that's very short intro about Uzupis. Me, as a creative technologist, as an artist, I never thought that I will be doing something like this. I worked in IT and show business and worked with huge stars. Indie artists played my shows before thousands of people. And I run a restaurant, nightclub before and worked with communities, but back in probably mid-zeros, I started traveling around the world to explore just the planet and see what is it around. And wanted to find a place where I will feel comfortable to make great things for the planet, for all the things. And around probably 2013, everything was prepared to move to Barcelona, and then I accidentally traveled to Lithuania and crossed the bridge of Uzupis. And then it clicked. I'm home. So I never heard about Uzupis before. And what's happening now? It's like my great colleague and friend, Mark Adam Harold, who is there. Hello, Mark. Said some years ago, so best patriots are immigrants. So probably both of us are the best example for that. So Republic of Uzupis, what is it and how is it going? So in the history, Republic of Uzupis first mentioned with Bridge of Uzupis back in 1605. First documented real estate operation happened in 1641. So that was the historical thing which already was happening at the time, and people lived there like regular people, normal people. Mainly, probably the lower part of Uzupis was the Jewish quarter, and near this market was the synagogue, and over the Uzupis, if we look at the photo forward, so there was a Jewish cemetery. So that was the normal district with normal citizens. Then, closer to the end of Soviet Union, Uzupis became destroyed and became really dangerous district that you would never want to go at nighttime. So probably closer to 90s, one of the street was called Street of Death, and it was the way to the cemetery, and it was the way of death, Street of Death. But in reality, if you're not local and you have no friends here, it could have been just like your last walk. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, artists started squatting deserted buildings just because it was looking like this. And in the 90s, the area became the home for new artists and all inhabitants who was the often artists and probably alcoholics. So that was the great mix of two completely different groups. And the main squat place was the gallery, which called Galera. So that's a quick story from the beginning until 90s. And now it's the legend time. Legend of Uzupis is the story of many people, just because many people told the story their own way, and every source is genuine. So the most gatherings were happening at the Galera and around, and the president now, Romas Lileikis, for him, the whole deserted buildings and the whole deserted area was a great decoration for celebrations and happenings. And he, as the important Lithuanian cinematographer and producer, was really happy to do something about it. Around that and after all these things, people were gathering in the first cafe in Uzupis. Probably that's the oldest restaurant in Uzupis, which opened in '94. And there was a lot of talk about like, okay, we're here, we're cool, we're doing some things. Why not we form some sort of association or just, I don't know, something like that. And eventually it came to the idea of forming a republic. So one day, probably around 97, so that's the legend, remember, Romas on the left came to Thomas Čepaitis, who is the translator and poet and just a great writer. And he came to him to say like, okay, can I take a shower just because at my home there is no hot water? So he said like, yeah, okay, but how's that? Republic is here and hot water is not. So they sat down and created the first draft of what later became a constitution of Uzupis with 41, actually 42 articles, which now translated in more than 30 languages and on display on the prospect of constitution on the metal mirror plates. So that was the beginning. And next appeared the flag, which is a palm with a hole in the middle, 4 colors for each season. So we can change the flag if you want every season. This hole means that we are like total honest, open, and we love to share. And it's about that we have universe flow through us and we have everything without having anything. And we don't take bribes. So that was the next step. And then national anthem, a beautiful song that gives you a thrill, was written. And to finish the whole concept, they needed a symbol, and the symbol was like, I don't know, people just like gather around, and it was really a natural way that people come in and finding a consensus. So it's like, speaking like modern terms, it's the decentralized autonomous organization from the very beginning. So people came over, and Romas Vilčiauskas, who is the sculptor, he just said, he proposed like, okay, this could be an angel, the Gabriel. So angel symbolizes rebirth, and his trumpet heralds a new era of freedom. And looking ahead, when Dalai Lama, who is also honorary citizen of Uzupis, saw the angel, he said that this trumpet should be heard everywhere on the planet. So that was in the summertime. In the December 97, Uzupins for the first time set the Christmas tree. And that became the first step for a tradition. Next year, on April 1st, the independence of a new republic has been proclaimed. And that was the step which just like turned everything upside down, or just like made it much better, probably. One interesting story about angels that before just like suggesting it and thinking about where to put it, so after selecting the main square, they created the paper structure, which was like the same size, and only then they started doing something. Then at the place appeared an egg, and the egg was the special replacement. it symbolized that there will be something new, and out of that will go out an angel. So the egg started the crowdfunding campaign, and out of the egg, out of the celebrative egg, appeared on the April 1st, 2002, an angel, 12 and a half meters high. So that's the angel of Uzupis, and this year, this angel celebrated special birthday, 20 years. To formalize and memorize usual things which were happening later during the years, there appeared an Uzupis calendar. And this calendar included traditional processions, traditional months-long festival for all sort of creativity, Vienos, Days of Wind. It's happening in the months of November, whole months. And of course, Christmas tree. So since 98, since winter 98, it was the first, sorry, it's not loading. So it was the first attempt to take the family photo, and it became a tradition that Uzupians since then taken the family photo with occasion and without. So to spread idea and symbols, Ministry of Foreign Affairs was created, and Thomas Čepaitis, which was the co-creator, became the Minister of Foreign Affairs. First achievement was a connection with Montmartre, with which Uzupis is still compared. And later on, the Uzupis television was formed to keep the visual archive of the Republic. So nowadays, Uzupis is an area where diverse people doing great things together or just enjoying life. It's easy to meet in a local cafe a president, and probably not only Uzupis president, some star or cult artists, as long as just the locals. We're having a beautiful time all together, living a peaceful life in harmony. Republic, state have to live the way that nobody would fear it. And when nobody fears you, you're just a perfect, valuable partner. And that's why later, the Uzupis army, which people asking me quite a lot, was dismissed just because we, the Republic, and there is no people that fear us. So whether Uzupis moved to become an independent or it was just like a genuine statement or performance art, there is no doubt. It has definitely been a successful one. So in all these things, like its cultural, social, economic impact reached far beyond Vilnius and Lithuania. And it's probably the largest and longest advertising campaign for Vilnius and Lithuania ever. So everyone asking why. So I selected, and I would distinguish 6 directions why this paradoxal utopia is blooming ever since. So it's community, culture, global communication, education, innovation, and magic. So let's start with community. So community of Uzupis is sometimes completely incompatible when over the bridge, not in Uzupis. People who inside the Republic are united and ready to be one. And it's not only about celebrating something or jokingly delineate the boundaries or fooling around or wash the angel, but also serious things like, let's say, protect the values and meaningful places, or fight the, wait a second, it's not loading again, sorry. So, okay, so when we deciding the strategy for art and culture, or when we're meeting the president, or meeting the mayor, or even Dalai Lama, we're all here, all together. And that's all in the culture code. And the culture is the natural part of Uzupis. Uzupis is the culture. So great artists all the time, ever before the independence, all had fun together. And that was the natural way to spend the time and just enjoy. For example, Monica Liu, which is on this photo, is not the only candidate from Uzupis who participated in Eurovision, so we actively exporting the culture. So artists coming from all over the world, and we really welcome cultural exchange and cross-cultural collaborations. And also some crazy things, like, for example, this world's biggest black woman, Panchagate, and she's 16 meters high, is now a great friend and a citizen of Uzupis. And she came this year, especially for the celebration of Uzupis independence. So what we're doing more, we're creating monuments, and that monuments has historical basis and has multiple layers of deep historical meaning. We open in new sculptures, we creating new symbols, and we actively supporting restoration of heritage. And to emphasize the cultural meaning of community, we created Uzupis Summer Day of Culture, where everyone is important and can participate. Just we can invite you to participate, to be a part of Uzupis Summer Day of Culture. And it could be just like a person, a bar, a cafe, a shop, a studio, I don't know, a pop-up performance. And we say that Uzupis is full of culture. So one of the great things is working on supporting locals, and that connected with economy. So Uzupis doing a lot to help their people, and innovations usually not really that just jumping into Uzupis, appearing from there to there, from there like anywhere. And for example, we started like we became naturally one of the first micronations, start accepting Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies. And there was also a talk to create an Uzcoin, just because we have since 2003 our local currency, which is still counted as most stable currency in the world, just because since 2003, 1 euro Uzus is still 1 glass of beer. Like I said, we support local manufacturers. We love enjoy their success together, and especially when it goes global. And speaking about global communication mainly supervised by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, by Thomas Čepaitis. And we have over 200 embassies and over 500 ambassadors in cities and countries all around the world. So creativity is the main indicator. And that's like on this photo. Robot console? Yes, of course. Yes, please. Dog in the embassy? That's kind of boring. But embassy inside the dog? Yeah, that's it. What would be the state without education? Probably nothing. So that's why we're not only collaborating and actively involving all these Uzupis gymnasium and supporting their students, but we also created our Uzupis University, where everything is completely different way. Show me university where you have, for example, I don't know, faculty of procrastination, or faculty of the moon and cosmic law, or faculty of applied paradoxe, or faculty of cats and dogs. Probably we're the only one. So next thing, Digital Culture Center and Crypto Art Hub, Baltics, Europe, explore new technologies, explore science and culture and the mix of it. And with it, we're making meetups, we're spreading the news about the modern things like blockchain, NFT, AI, all the things like this. And we're doing it not only in Uzupis, but all around the world. And the other great thing, that one of the most progressive creative accelerator for kids, Vivita from Japan, selected Uzupis as the place to stay. And we came to the great thing which called innovations. Yeah. So innovations, I believe that innovations are relatives of creativity. And our creative approach is everywhere. So, for example, Uzupis became the first micronation which went Web3. We're DAO ready, like I mentioned, by nature, and we're going forward. First, NFT gallery in Baltics and Europe opened in Uzupis. Uzupis constitution is the first constitution in the world which mentioned artificial intelligence. And Uzupis created world's first psychology-based AI music composer musical blockchain, is really happy about it. We mentioned before, robots, yes. First humanoid console will speak with you, and Ars Electronica, where it was presented, really approved that. Or, for example, animatronic robot with artificial intelligence, which is like, we just speak with you, and which is ideal for smart vending for nighttime, and that, yes, flying here too. So what could be said about the city? So we created even city-related hardware and initiative to explore nighttime, measure the city, and make it more calm and psychologically safe and comfortable with special active noise cancelling and something like that. And it's all born in Uzupis. Sounds like a magic? Yeah, of course. But how utopia and paradox could exist without a magic? And it's everywhere. You don't believe in unicorns? Okay, we have one. Cemeteries are great? Not really. They are blooming and it's beautiful. Beer from the fountain instead of water? It's here, of course. Ever thought about taking a ride on a cat bus? Yeah, we have a station for that, and also a schedule. And also, disappearing bridges, or, I don't know, any romantic evening places, or swing above the water, above the river, or chair to feel like an angel. And that's our everyday magic. So that's everyday magic, which could steal you forever if you look into the eyes of the mermaid. And that's the magical Republic of Uzupis. So thank you and welcome to Uzupis.
Thank you so much, Gleb. That was so wonderful. I just wanted to say to the audience that we're going to have time for question and answer period after our next keynote. So you can put your questions for Gleb into the Slido app if you wish, or we're going to have the mics open and he will be able to hear your question. Just put them into the 1440 moving from underground to overground Q&A session. And then we'll make sure that he gets to answer your questions about this amazing place that I'm sure all of us now really want to go to. So I'm personally just so thrilled to welcome our next guest to the stage. Maybe some of you have already heard about Meow Wolf, but it's the scrappy Santa Fe, New Mexico-based art collective that really took the art world by storm. In 2 years, Meow Wolf transformed from a group of broke creatives into an organization with a fundraising clip on par with, you know, some tech startups, and all the while have been upending the art and entertainment industries as we know it. As senior creative producer for Meow Wolf, our next speaker, Marcy Gray, sits at the intersection of curation and execution, and at the great presence of the great presence that production entails, pardon me. We're so delighted to welcome Marcy to come and tell us more about Meow Wolf. So welcome, Marcy.
Thank you so much, Laura. I was really inspired to hear what Gleb had to say, and thinking about the parallels between what they've gone through and what we've gone through, and really about culture. So with that, for those of you who don't know about Meow Wolf, I wanted to play a little video. This is a trailer from we had a documentary called Origin Story. So they'll play a little video and then I'll dive into my presentation.
Doesn't look like much right now. As you walk down the hallway, you'll turn the corner. Eventually, you'll open up the refrigerator, and you'll wind up in another world.
How would you describe Meow Wolf, and how do you fit into the art scene?
Meow Wolf is a venue for artists who felt like they were on the outside of the art market in Santa Fe looking in.
The scene for artists who are trying to do something different or weird just didn't really exist.
We were Santa Fe's orphans of neglect. The gallery arts world is a bunch of markety bull.
It's time for us to just be an agitator.
The art world needs to get shaken up a little bit.
We didn't want rules. We didn't want hierarchy. We had no money. We started pulling stuff out of dumpsters.
I was zip tying trash together and fixing it to the wall.
What kind of people is this going to draw? All the types of weirdos. All the good and bad weirdos.
For us, it was just this creative explosion. Are we creating something that people are actually going to like? Not a single person got paid.
We did this for years. There were 10 of us living in one tiny little room because all the money's going to the art. There's not even much money for that.
I mean, it was insane. It was too much.
How long can I do this for?
How can we make Meow Wolf sustainable?
We need a building. We need millions of dollars. Where are we gonna get that?
The idea of the person that could buy this for us being George Martin was really silly.
It was please take a chance on us. Nobody else is going to.
Okay, I'll buy the bowling alley. It's incredible. Other dimensions, other times, a secret story. He was just pushing all my buttons.
It was just burning down some old system and having a hyper phoenix of what art can be rising out of the ashes.
Not only is this crazy, but it's possible.
You have to support those who feel like they're on the outside looking in, because that's how we were. That's where this is a success or a failure.
It's cute, right? It's a pretty interesting story, what they went through to get open. So that's me. Hi. Next slide. I don't have control over the slide, so we're just going to click through. Click through, please. I'm going to start by giving just a little bit of an overview about how Meow Wolf has grown over the last, since 2008. So they started off as a very sort of scrappy art collective, group of disenfranchised artists who couldn't break into the art scene in Santa Fe. The art scene there is very formal, very traditional, very conservative sort of gallery spaces. And they didn't have any way to get into that space. And so they were all waiters and waitresses. They had no money. They pooled together. And it was really hard for them to come up with $75 a month to rent a tiny warehouse space in Santa Fe that they could come together, create art together, do little art shows, and then always along the line as part of the ethos in Meow Wolf has been performance, expression, and gathering together parties and events. So next slide, please. These are a couple of slides. This one and the next one, go ahead, are a couple of slides of very early days in the warehouse in Santa Fe. Next slide. And this was really the sort of origin of Meow Wolf. Next slide. So in early May of 2018, this group got together and did their very first art show outside of their space. It was in a sort of rundown industrial part of Santa Fe. And then shortly after that, in June, they started this annual tradition. They probably didn't know at the time that it would become this annual tradition, but basically they dragged a sound system down to the plaza area, which is downtown Santa Fe, very touristy, very kind of conservative. They dragged a sound system down. They dressed up like monsters and in crazy costumes, and they did a dance battle right in the heart of downtown Santa Fe. So these are a few slides of Monster Battle. Next slide. This was our mascot, Snaggy, is this head that you see, and one of the founders DJs under the name DJ Snaggy. And so Snaggy was born through Monster Battle. Next slide. Okay, so then in 2010, after doing a bunch of scrappy art shows and starting to travel a little bit nationally, they tapped into the performance sort of side of what we do, and they put on an immersive play that ran for several weeks and ran to like complete success and sold out with lines around, like lines around the block to get in. And so since then, and really as part of the origin, performance and live events have been part of, like woven into the fabric of what it is that we do at Meow Wolf. So here's an image from that play back in 2010. And then 2011, there was a real breakthrough moment for Meow Wolf. They got contacted by one of the more formal and more serious art galleries in Santa Fe called CCA. And they were asked to put on an art show there. And so what they decided to do was to build this immersive, interactive, intergalactical sort of spaceship. And they built a huge ship in the middle of this gallery that had performance woven through it, had storyline woven through. So you see on the left, there's a picture of the ship that gives you an idea of the sort of scale. And over to the right, you see the woman sitting in the chair as a guest, interacting with one of the performers, and in the middle of a sort of immersive art experience. And that also was just wildly successful. It really put Meow Wolf on the map in Santa Fe and sort of established them in a way. They worked really, really hard on it. And again, lines around the block to get in. And so that ran for several months. And from there, they knew they needed to create a more permanent place to host them. And that's why you saw in the documentary, they knew they wanted to get a building. They had no money. They didn't know where they would come up with the money. And they approached a local Santa Fe resident, George R.R. Martin, who is the author of Game of Thrones, and approached him to invest. And he wouldn't invest, but he said, yes, he would buy them a building. So then they went out and scrapped together over the course of the next 14 months. They scrapped together enough money to build out a permanent exhibit. And that's called House of Eternal Return. That opened in 2016 in Santa Fe. It is a 20,000 square foot permanent exhibition with a really beautiful venue space. As they were conceiving of building this exhibit, they knew that they needed to have a place to have music and celebration. On the left, there's a scene from the forest, which is part of the exhibition, and then on the right is this underwater dreamy scene called Gloquarium. So from 2016, where they were pulling stuff out of trash cans to build this exhibit, and then they opened it, not knowing how they were actually going to run it, and the artists were running it and tried to figure out how to run it. They were expecting to have 100,000 people. They were hoping to have 100,000 people a year come through, and they surpassed that wildly within the first few months. And the first year, I think, saw 500,000 visitors come through. So between 2016 to 2021, they really legitimized as a company. They formed as a B Corp, which is a benefit corporation, and I'll get into that in a little while. So next up, they did another permanent exhibit in Las Vegas, Nevada, called Omega Mart. I was the senior producer on this project. It's a social commentary on consumerism and our reliance on the supply chain. So it was really kind of crazy that we opened up in the middle of a global pandemic. And from this grocery store that you enter into, you go down these portals into these psychedelic worlds. There were over 350 artists that came together to create this piece, and we collaborated with some really amazing musicians like Beach House, Amon Tobin, and Brian Eno to create the soundtrack. And concurrently, we opened in Denver, Colorado, also in the US, our third permanent exhibit, the fall of 2021. This one is huge. It's 90,000 square feet, 5 stories of just crazy, beautiful art. This one is a commentary on transportation. It's basically like a transportation hub. We like to start off with something familiar. In Santa Fe, it's a house. In Vegas, it's a store. And in Denver, it's this transportation hub. So Denver has a really big venue in it as well. So all of that being said, we really went about changing the culture and changing the art culture, but also changing the nightlife culture in Santa Fe. When Meow Wolf started, there wasn't a single venue in Santa Fe for touring acts, DJs, bands to play at. And then now in 2022, after these years of having a venue, we have world-class musicians, bands, performers coming through and underplaying at our venue. It's only a 500 cap venue, and we have huge names coming through because they want to play at Meow Wolf. In between 2016 and now, we've also helped other people open venues. We program into, there's a 1,200 cap venue that we program into that we helped set up and did all the art for, and have really been an advocate and a support system for the local community to create places to gather. So here is another picture of Monster Battle. This is several years later, and another photo just to show you when we first started doing Monster Battle in the plaza, we were a bunch of weirdos and nobody knew what was going on. Now the whole community comes out, and we've sort of changed the perception about partying and gathering and dancing in Santa Fe, which is really cool. And then here's a couple of pictures of our venue in Santa Fe to show you what it's like. When we have really big names, we can fit maybe 600 people. We don't like to do that. We like to keep it around 500, but it's a really beautiful space for people to come. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about that in preparation to talk about how we catalyze change in working with the city, but also working with the local community. And I would be remiss in talking to you about how we worked with the city without mentioning the community development that we did and continue to do, and how that's a real big part for us at Meow Wolf, but also in my perspective in how we work to catalyze change. So when Meow Wolf started, there was a real resistance in Santa Fe to partying, to celebration, to gathering together. There was just like this real resistance. And so in my exploration and understanding of talking to the people who were there at that time, their answer to that resistance, they knew they needed to create a space for themselves. So they made this venue, and in order to get that permitted and to get the alcohol permits and everything that we needed to do, they knew they had to just be flawless in their paperwork. They needed to understand what was required of them and show up fully in integrity with the way that they submitted everything. And that really helped sort of shift the perspective a little bit and to be able to create a conversation with the cities. Developing good, healthy, honest relationships with the city officials was really supportive to Meow Wolf in making traction in that. We also learned we learned not to do anything that's like cutting corners or anything less than transparent. We didn't do anything sort of under the radar and really just showed up through the proper channels, and that gave us a little bit more sort of credibility when we were working with the city officials. When we encountered roadblocks, we would show up and sit down and talk through the issues with the city and with the officials that we were working with the municipality, and work through together to find solutions. And just we were completely diligent and just not letting go of what we wanted to do. We knew there was a way forward, and we chartered that course by just staying consistent and showing up. A really important piece to me about how Meow Wolf has worked and what's made Meow Wolf work is community. And I believe that we all here understand the power of community, but our community can show up for us when there are like civic meetings or meetings about us doing things, we've had our community show up for us and speak on our behalf many, many times. And as you saw in the trailer in the very beginning, the Meow Wolf was really created to be a place for people who feel like they're on the outside looking in, and to create a supportive environment for people to thrive. And so it's been really an important part of the ethos and the development of Meow Wolf to give back to the community and to support the community. So we were founded as a B Corp, which I think I mentioned earlier. That stands for Benefit Corporation, and that is, you have to go through very stringent things to prove that you are giving back in a significant way. And what that does is it sets us up with a sort of built-in protection from our investors, or for our company to be able to be not just for profit, but to be for giving back. And so what we found is, as we show up for the community then shows up for us, and it's a really reciprocal type of relationship. So we give back, and then they give back, and we give back, and they give back. And it wasn't ever our intention, and that's not the reason why we did it, but it's been a really remarkable thing to be a part of, really, but also to watch how that plays out. One example of this is in 2016 or 17, I can't remember exactly, I think it was 17, there was a really big fire in a warehouse in Oakland called Ghost Ship, and there were over 30 people who lost their lives in that fire. And Meow Wolf at the time was super poor, had just barely opened the House of Eternal Return, but gathered together close to $500,000 and went and worked with art collectives around the United States to help bring their spaces up to code, because they immediately thought, like, oh, that could have been us at many, many times in our evolution. And then, I think really being able to demonstrate the value that we have within our communities and showing up into that space allows them, it really creates a desire for them to support us. And then finally, I think one of the most amazing things that Meow Wolf does really well, and something I really just want to offer to this group here, is we, as we're creating these platforms for people to gather, we have this opportunity to really amplify marginalized voices, with the platform that we're creating, to seek out and hold up people who, and to give a broader reach to people who may be in underserved communities, people who historically don't have as much ability to speak publicly or speak out. And so that's something that I feel like is really important about what we're doing, and really has a lot of heart for me, but also for our company. And so I wanted to share that with you. And and that's what I came here to share. And really, just in closing, I think that, like, persistence and dedication and never giving up are kind of the themes of what has made Meow Wolf so successful, just like unrelenting passion. And so just really encouraging all of you to hold on to those passions that you have and to create space for others to sing around you. Thank you for listening.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to just set up some chairs, or we can sit right here, as you wish. But thank you so much, both of you, for coming and joining. Yeah, we'll pull them forward. Yeah. Oh. Great, thank you. Okay. Yeah, you're a production person, so you do this all the time. Thank you so much for your keynote. Do we have Gleb coming back on stage to join us as well? Yeah, Gleb will come back. Just a reminder for the audience that you can totally plug in your questions for Marcy and Gleb into Slido. I have some questions. I I'm really keen to talk with both of you about the overlapping topics in both of your works, which are very different, but there are elements that are really interesting, especially the creative approaches to enacting civic placemaking, and how to support those who are in the underground to really break through and get into the mainstream. So, Gleb, you're back. Can you hear us? Oh, hello.
I'm almost here.
So you're almost here.
It's stuck, but I'm almost here.
Great. Well, we're so happy you are. I don't know if you caught that, but I'm hoping we can talk a bit about creative approaches to civic placemaking. And I'd like to start with both of you, or I'll start with you, Gleb, about, what have you learned about working without and within existing systems? So I'm curious how the Republic of Uzupis, claimed its space and how it got politicians and political people on side. And what have you learned that you think you might be able to pass on to folks who are still toiling for legitimacy in the underground?
It's really an interesting question in a way that Republic of Uzupis naturally became a part, and there was no really a struggle as the struggle. But the thing is that some first steps was to find a great contact with same police, just because it was a dangerous district, and that was something that was, that needed to be solved. So first steps was to make more or less comfortable situation about that, and then just act. So you just acting, you're just doing it properly, you're doing it the right way, and it's not about asking, it's more about coming over and suggesting we're doing it like this. And wait a second, I don't remember if it was in the video or it was just in the words about the paperwork, probably in the on the stage. So doing the paperwork the right way is the key to all this administrative stuff. So that's the thing which is, bureaucracy is bureaucracy, nothing special.
Okay, thank you. And Marcy, do you have anything to add about working within and without certain systems to break through?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Meow Wolf really started by working without, by just charting their own course. They tried to work within the traditional art world in Santa Fe. It didn't work. And so they just charted their own course, and they did that with persistence that was very challenging at times for them. And, they had no money. There were times that were just desperately hard for them. And then once they started to go in a more sort of trajectory of building something larger, they had to take this nonconformist way and move it into something that conformed to the traditional paperwork, and developing those relationships with the city and developing the relationship with the art galleries and the art world in Santa Fe that had kind of spurned them. And so they worked really, really hard to learn how to do that, and they educated themselves, before they went into the city and applied for permits, and had to learn really quickly about construction and all of that. It was pretty wild.
Okay, that's a big, level up. The only way to become legitimate is to legitimize. And I'm curious, what your experience for Meow Wolf. What was it like when you were oh wow, we've made it? And how did your challenges or approaches change as soon as that realization kind of settled?
Yeah, I mean, when I joined them in 2017. I brought them out to a big festival that I did for the Eclipse in Oregon, and we all fell in love, and the company at that time was still, there was maybe 100 people who worked there. Now we've got over 1,200 people who work there. And the company was really kind of on that precipice and still on that leading edge. And I think before, as we have grown into legitimizing, we were trying to strike this balance of, like keeping the chaos and keeping the anarchy that is at the core of Meow Wolf, while creating enough structure to not blow these, multi-million-dollar budgets that we have for these exhibits, which is crazy. And we've gone way too far in the structure at certain points, and then had to ease back more into chaos, and we're still in the process of finding the balance of that, honestly.
Yeah, sounds like a tango a little bit.
Yeah.
Gleb, what about for you in terms of breaking through? What kind of challenges?
It's like the breaking through is the thing which was all the time. But for me personally, I was mainly in my younger days when I began doing some working with communities and doing something on a city level. It was back in Moscow. So it was before 2000. So that was long ago. That was really something when you're doing something, you're realizing okay, it's not something special, but I learned quite a lot how to deal with it. And that's kind of thing which was the great skill to have. And if you don't have it, you need to learn it as quick as possible. But with Uzupis, it was, so when they started in 98, it was completely unknown group of artists who just squatted the building, and that was completely no connection with the city and stuff. So they live illegally or doing stuff illegally. And the situation changed when the new mayor of Vilnius moved to Uzupis. And at some point, he just realized okay, I can use this, and that could be a great thing for me. So on his page, it is still stated that he created the Uzupis. So that's how it's from the political side.
Okay.
But in reality, that's the thing which doing and dealing with all this political thing helped to more or less normalize the thing. When the mayor stepped over, we already had these connections, and we had access to next points, next steps. So that's where these skills were required. And that was just the natural way to just go through, fail, learn something, go again, do some new. And at the same time, all the time, just act without asking, without any questions. So if it will be at some sort of fail or it will be banned, okay, that's the thing, but that's happening. So that was two approaches at the same time, and we were just doing it. And the other thing, we're when you're talking about many people working on the project, that's really cool. But what's different about Uzupis is that there is only about 10 ministers who really doing stuff, and when it comes to exact realization, it's people you can count on one hand. So that's what we are really cool about, is create without any budget, any support, some crazy, absolutely crazy things, just because we can.
Okay. One of the things that came up for me as I was hearing you talk, Gleb, one of our principles, and something that has proven itself out over and over in the course of my time at Meow Wolf, is this idea of failing fast and failing often, and having that has been woven into our culture, where we are all gonna fuck up. We're all gonna make big mistakes, and sometimes costly mistakes. We are gonna start out on something and learn that it's not the right path to take. And I think in hearing you talk and thinking about reflecting on Meow Wolf, the ability to fail and have that be okay and have that be a part of the process, I think definitely has helped Meow Wolf to break through. And it sounds like also with your group as well. So I just wanted to highlight that.
It's not a fail, it's experience.
Yeah.
That's totally the right attitude. You talked about, getting politicians on side and getting the permits on side and all of this, but I'm curious if we could talk a little bit more about community building and cultivating, getting people to back you up, and maybe any lessons that you've learned about cultivating a following and bringing them along for the ride. I know, Marcy, you talked a bit about this, but maybe Gleb, you can start a bit about, you started as squatters. And if we squatted in Montreal. I don't think the local community would be super happy with us. So I'm curious what you have learned about getting people on side who are within the district that you're operating.
You know, that's the thing about the same, probably it's called vibe. So if you have vibe, if you have the right vibe, that's the thing which will bring people to your side. Just because when they started back in 90s, it was not really about like people happy about it. And that was already something like, okay, we're just doing it our way, and we're doing it in a way that will help locals. That's the first thing. Then it's about building community in all meanings. Like not so long ago, there was a great example in a cafe in district near. One of the journalists who was just like going around and asking about Uzupis, he just asked the girl, the barman, and he said like, okay, so you work there in Uzupis and you work in here now. What can you say? Like, what's the difference? Like the same people are going here and there. And she said, if something will happen here, I will need to call the police, and probably that will be late. If something will happen in Uzupis, I can just like go out and everybody will help me. So that's about the community building, the vibe, and probably the family, the most normal thing. That's why we call it like the family picture that we take in like every year. And that explains it all. We're supporting each other as a family.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say something really similar to what Gleb said, which is, you know, just being fiercely ourselves and being persistent in expressing who we were, and that's like the vibe part of it for sure. And then really showing up for the community. We do all kinds of things. We do volunteer days. Right now we've got very, very terrible wildfires in our mountains. So we do supply drives. Our company matches donations that the employees give to give back to the community. And so we're actually actively out working in the community. And that, I think that we're walking the talk. And so I think that really helps to create that sense of togetherness, you know?
Right on. Okay, so everyone's shy in Slido, but the mics are also here. You can raise your hands. I don't know if there's any questions in the audience. There is. Someone's waving. Is that Mike?
It is. I've got a question for both speakers, and that is, have you spawned other types of organizations as a result of what you've done? You said, wow, we're so inspired, we want to do our own thing.
Gleb, did you hear that? Okay, so the question was, did what you are doing inspire any other organizations to create their own republics? And then that was basically...
It's like, is what we are doing, it's the question if it inspire or no?
Did it inspire sorry, Mike, did it inspire, maybe I didn't. Did it inspire others to do something similar?
Yeah, and the thing is that, like, for example, artistic communities from Scotland invited me to just like come over and make a master class how to do it. Same with community in Belarus, which is like not far away. So it was before the revolution, but that was already something like they changed their mind about creating some sort of free part of country or I don't know, city or anything to make it the way we are doing. And that's the nice balance, just because we, at the same time, we're saying that there is no politics in Uzupis, but we're dealing with politics. So that's the reality. And we're not just like closing our eyes and saying like, okay, there is no politics. No. It's like, it's the thing that you need to deal with, but politics shouldn't drive you in a way, like, I don't know, if you cannot do it without any politics, that's probably you're doing it wrong, just because everything could be done on its own. That's again from experience.
Okay. And Marcy?
Yeah, so thank you for asking the question. So when I joined Meow Wolf, there was a group that was doing something that had things aesthetically, they were starting to, and subsequently open, that were doing things that looked very similar to what we had done. And the way my mind worked at the time, I was like, oh, look at what they're doing. That's terrible. And in fact, the way that Meow Wolf has approached that traditionally across the years is by that, like, people will approach us and have an idea to do something and need help or have questions, and consistently, particularly the founders of Meow Wolf have shown up, have met with them, have supported them, have taught them the things that they learned or shared lessons learned. And likewise, when we were getting going, because there was nothing exactly like what we had done before. There was something that is a big interactive sort of play place, and it's called City Museum. And those people were kind enough to talk to our founders when they had the idea to build something. And so I think that experience and learning from them really showed us how the way in terms of supporting, like in our viewpoint, the more interactive art, the more art there is out there, the more experience-driven things that are out there, the better for the planet.
Awesome.
I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
The thing is that Uzupis University was created just because of that we can share and all the people can learn, not the regular way. We're not mentoring, we're just sharing.
Right on. I'm curious now, do you two have any questions for each other? You're doing different things, but there are synergies. So I'm curious if you have anything to ask each other.
I do. I was curious, and from the stories that you've heard, because it sounds like you moved there and joined after it really had gone through the sort of formalization process. But I was wondering how if you know how the community has changed as a result of going through that process and then ultimately being recognized as your own republic.
Community changed not because of that, but just because of the change in the community, the just a regular one. So a lot of people at that time, like artists who was just like a poor artist, became they developed. So it's not just because of Uzupis they became popular or something. So they developed, they moved to other areas and new people came in. So they were already at some sort like, oh, okay, I'm moving to Uzupis. So that was like one wave. The other wave is that after all this luxury thing and gentrification and stuff, people who never heard about the artistic life of Uzupis started moving in. And that was the other problem. Like they moved in, like, why are you making this noise at 9 in the evening? So that was just like, think like, come on, you're living in Uzupis. I don't like, it's luxury district. Why should I care about some artist? So that was about like the change of the whole district. And speaking about the main initiative group, probably the main group left as it was. So everybody like with the coming age, just like changed or had some sort of like own negotiations between themselves. So it's like some people just like stepped aside, some people moved in. But the thing is that, like I mentioned, the main great thing about Uzupis is that it's still a decentralized organization. There is no thing, like there is no one person which will say like, we're going this way and everybody will go. So president is the great, let's say, conductor for that. And everyone have to find consensus with themselves. So when this consensus here, everything is perfect. When it's not, we're just not doing anything. And that's about, let's say, not about even change in the community. That's about the whole approach, which tests people who come over. We had a lot of examples, like people were coming in, like, I want to be a minister. Like, no problem, be a minister. But the thing is that they want to be a minister just because of the title and not about taking responsibility. So I was always about like, okay, if you come over, I don't care how you call yourself. You need to take responsibility and do what you said, what you need to do, and do it the right way in the right time. So people were just like going in, not passing the test, and just like dropping off. So I don't care if they're still using this title, but the thing is, most of the people who more or less around this community and who probably at some point research us, They know who is really doing stuff, who is not doing stuff, who is just pretending, and so on and so on. So all in all, it's a living organism which is just alive and blooming, and that's the beauty of the community. Just because without this community, it would be not possible. Once, 2016 probably, or 15, president decided okay, I don't want to be called president anymore. And that was an experiment for the community. If community will survive, if Uzupis would be successful projects in some sort without him or not. So the thing is, just because of this unconsciousness decentralization, it was still going and going and going. So this year, together for April 1st, for celebration of our Independence Day, we again worked all together, like the same group, same organism. And it was okay, it was yesterday. So all these years, not there. And even during quarantine, most of the people were just no, we're not going out. And that was one of those who was just no, we will keep the tradition going. So we will have a procession. We will have all this things changing the flag, doing the thing for the 1st of April, putting the Christmas tree, making the traditional festival, and all in calendar. And everybody was just come on, you're crazy. And I was no. That's important for me, just because it's also my responsibility to keep it going. So that's about all these things. Every member of community changing, but still, since they are connected and they are all together, it's going, and it's not really changing in a global way, just because it goes up.
Beautiful.
Hey, Gleb, do you have any questions for Marcy?
I have a lot of questions. I don't know what to select.
Maybe one. We've got time for one.
Okay, I will just ask one. Do you enjoy the state where you are now?
Of Meow Wolf.
The state of where we're at as a company?
Of just the group. So
Same question about the goodness,
community.
yes. Yeah, I work with a bunch of remarkable weirdos, and I really, really love that. And as the company has grown, we attract really, really amazing, creative, very niche creators, and we've been able to weave ourselves together into this amazing tapestry of humans. Yeah, I really enjoy it. We just got a brand new CEO at the beginning of this year, and he's really special and intelligent but compassionate, and is really working on putting our people, first, and taking care of our people in an amazing way. So yeah, I really enjoy the state of where we're at right now. Yeah, thanks for asking that.
Awesome.
And any last questions from the audience? We've got one.
Hi, my name is Dennis. I'm very happy about what's going on with not only the Montreal 24/24, but all the aspect coming metaverse, NFTs, and this is basically what it's going through. We are doing a live VR, but also I have my metaverse that are open to welcome the people that not able to come physically over here. And then they have the place to exchange, but also to be immersed in that content over here. So I'm very happy of what it's going on over here, because decentralized, it's a word for weirdo, because we do everything. This is what decentralized it is. So thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm really excited that you've opened that portal for those who can't make it here. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Well, we've run out of time. This was so cool to see both of you here and hybrid and all of your amazing work. Let's give them both a big round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Oh, you can leave. Sorry, I think there's a little 5-minute break before the next panel, which is with our delegation from Detroit. So you don't want to miss that. See you back here in 10 minutes. Hey, Gleb. Oh, hi. He can hear me? Hey, Gleb, thank you so much. I just emailed you, but you were a huge hit. Everybody was like nodding along and laughing, and really, I think everybody wants to go to Uzupis University at this point.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really wish you could have been here in real life. But we're gonna have to get you.
Hopefully next time.
Yeah, absolutely next time. And I can't wait to meet you. And I just wanted to sincerely thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you. I tried to stick in 20 minutes, but as I got it, it was 21.
No, you were perfect. You were absolutely perfect. I really appreciate everything. So thank you so much. You're a champ through all of these technical stuff too. So we really appreciate it. Okay, great. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Okay, it's probably night just because it's almost 11.
Oh, okay. Well, have a good rest of your night.
Nighttime ahead.
Well,
Bars calling.
Okay, good. Okay, go enjoy yourself. We appreciate you spending that time with us.
Okay, thank you so much, and talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah. Detroit.
ça, il y a 4 personnes, hein, c'est ça?
If I could reincarnate tonight, I would be a Clorox wipe. 'Cause I know in this climate, you're right. Finally want me in your life. I'll be a Clorox wipe. I'll be your 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 Clorox wipe. I could be your Clorox wipe. I would have a purpose. I'll be at your service. Let me wipe your surface, 'cause that don't make me nervous. I'll be so effective, you won't be affected. I'm not trying to be your man, I'm just your disinfectant. If I could reincarnate tonight, I would be a Clorox wipe. 'Cause I know in this climate, you're right. Finally want me in your life. I'll be a Clorox wipe. I'll be your 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 Clorox wipe. I could be your Clorox wipe. It would be so nice if we could reunite. You took me for granted, now you're paying twice the price. And I will feel superior, all up in your areas. I can keep your love and I'll just kill all the bacteria. If I could reincarnate tonight, I would be a Clorox wipe. 'Cause I know in this climate, you're right. Finally want me in your life. I'll be your Clorox wipe. 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 I could be your Clorox wipe. So let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. Let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. Wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. I'm not too good to clean. So let me wipe you down. And wipe you down. So let me wipe you down. I'm not too good to clean. So let me wipe you down. Why can't she give some sort of sign? You know, and I know a thing or two about loyalty. Ooh, but that girl don't pay no mind. So is it really my fault? I get a shiver when I see her with those other guys, wearing the jacket I bought. Oh, I can't help but lose my temper and I don't know why. I get jealous, but I'm too cool to admit it. When the fellas talk to my girl, I ain't with it. I get jealous, but I'm too cool to admit it. When the fellas talk to my girl, I ain't with it. 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 I get strung up from her loving. I wish she'd care to see, but she only cares when she's so inclined. And I fret so much about her loving. I wish she'd let me be, but her destiny's got us so intertwined. Back in 2011, I decided to not let this play with my mind. But when them boys from out of town, they come back around, I feel like committing a crime. Yeah, I get jealous, but I'm too cool to admit it. When the fellas talk to my girl, I ain't with it. I get jealous, but I'm too cool to admit it. When the fellas talk to my girl, I ain't with it. I get jealous, but I'm too cool to admit it. When the fellas talk to my girl, I ain't with it. I get jealous, but I'm too cool to admit it. When the fellas talk to my girl, I ain't with it. I must have been there. Ooh, yeah. One hit of you, I went through the roof. Your love so strong, that's 100 proof. Too much of you, I ain't driving home. No, I ain't spending the night alone. All this lying got me stressing. Tell me why you keep me guessing. I wish I'd have learned my lesson, but I wanted you. Yeah, I wanted you.
Montréal, au sommet de la nuit. Une nuit impossible.
Yes, that's it. You got it? Okay. Got it. Then you select. It's the 331. Community organizing, yes. That's it. So the questions are just going to show up there. You can ask them. Okay, rebonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone. So we are really happy to welcome our guests from Detroit today to end these 2 days of panels and discussion about nightlife. We're going to talk about nightlife in Detroit, community organizing, how to get involved. And we're super honored also to have Patty Schmidt to host this panel. Patty's on our board. She's our VP now, so we're super proud of that. So I'm going to give her the mic, hand her the mic now, and have a good time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mathieu. Detroit, as we know, is a place of constant effervescence innovation, and resistance, from the Underground Railroad to underground resistance, and countless civic, cultural, and musical initiatives over the decades of the city's ups and downs. And we're very pleased today to have some very serious ambassadors of the night from Detroit with us to talk about their city's special sauce and what we might learn for ourselves here in Montreal. So I would like to introduce at the far right, John Jammin Collins is a member of the legendary, foundational, and quintessential Detroit techno collective Underground Resistance. Founded by Mike Banks and Jeff Mills in 1989, they represent a sound, a label, an ethos, and a politics. UR is embedded in the psychogeography of the city and its ongoing contributions to the local and the global techno community. John is a curator of Exhibit 3000, Detroit's museum dedicated to techno music, where he also serves on the board. He's vice chair of the Detroit Entertainment Commission and a board member on the Detroit-Berlin Connection. And he has often been referred to as the Night Mayor of Detroit, even if he wasn't elected. Carmen Johnson is part of the Charivari Festival family affair. She has been soaking in it all from a very young age. She is herself a model, artist, actress, and DJ who performs and now produces music under the name Silly Girl Carmen. And today is the release of her debut house tune, available on all music platforms. She'll be also playing at the SAT over the crazy nonstop hours this weekend. She also made her DJ debut in 2019 on the Charivari stage and is now blazing the decks across the globe. And she will bring a very unique new generation perspective to this discussion. Todd Johnson is the co-founder of Charivari. It was founded as a free festival in Detroit in 2014, and it was built first and foremost to be a homegrown celebration of Detroit and its contributions to electronic dance music. The lineup for this year's edition runs from August 11th to 14th, features Moody Man, Juan Atkins, Delano Smith, DJ Minx, and Kyle Hall, among many, many others. And he has, in his own words, dabbled as a DJ, club owner, host, coat check, bartender, cook, security, doorman, photographer, promoter, graphic artist, and trash and bathroom cleanup dude, saying, most jobs involved in many people having a good time are not that glamorous, and there is very little glory. I would like to thank you all for joining us today. And since this is a summit of the night and the things that we do kind of come to life in the dark, first question for everybody: when did you discover the night, and when and how did you begin to participate yourself? Do you want to hit it, Todd?
I discovered the night probably, to use that phrase, my first, I say, professional party would be in 1977. And when I say professional party, it's just a party that you've chose to charge money for. Because many people have birthdays and all types of other celebrations, but we gave a dollar party at my mother's house. And the trick of that party was we told my mother that a few friends were going to come over. And she was wondering why we were moving all the furniture and all the other stuff. Oh, we're just cleaning up, you know. So for that party, we made $469, and I was hooked on the night. There we go. That was my first.
I'd say my introduction to the night, I probably, since I was younger, probably technically before I could even be in a club, I was there, not participating in any drinking or anything, but I was there because I grew up with him, and you know, he worked with so many DJs, so I was like, I loved the music, so I was like, yeah, if I can come and just watch a DJ. I fell in love with it just from seeing how the DJ brought an energy to the room, how people responded to particularly house music. So I just fell in love with that culture. And then from there, living in LA and New York, got to see a variety of different, you know, nightlife venues and things like that. So I just always love the energy that, you know, music and that type of experience can bring.
Was there ever any question that you would not be working in the night?
No.
Yeah, right. I think it was already there somehow. Whatever I was doing in entertainment, it was like there was always that component where it was like celebrations, music, events. Yeah, it was always there.
So I'll go back a little further. I discovered the night when I was a child. My family always had parties. In the night, we were like very, very young. So that was like my first introduction to nighttime parties. So we'll just skip a few years later. My official, probably in the 70s, I would imagine. It's been so many parties and for so many years for me, it's hard to pinpoint. But I was an avid club goer in Detroit. I mean, since I was like 19 years old, it hasn't stopped. And many, many different clubs, back then in Detroit, as it is now. But that was my first time, and I was like hooked as a dancer. I never wanted to be a DJ. That was not a career goal for me, but that did happen later, so that's what happened for me.
And now you're all professionals.
Yes.
And here we are.
So, Todd, I think it would be really great to explain to everybody what Charivari is about, a little kind of genesis story of the festival, its setting, its intention, maybe the people who show up, and why 2014, what was going on?
Charivari actually started out with a group of friends, 6 friends that got together and decided that we wanted to try to recreate what we had in high school. We started, each person was a representative of a series of high school social clubs from the early 1980s. Even before house and before techno, we called it progressive music, which came right after disco. So all of us kind of grew up in Northwest Detroit, and the high school party scene was just like, it's like Peter Pan. That's just the time that you experienced the music, you experienced the dancing, and it transitioned right into your adult life, going into clubs and things like that. So over the years, as things have changed and things have not changed, we just wanted to bring back a little bit of that flavor into what we thought was missing in Detroit with not disparaging anybody else's festivals or events, but we just didn't see what we wanted. So what started out as first just a gathering of most of the early age DJs out of Detroit, like someone like John Collins, Delano Smith, Al Esther, Gary Chandler, a lot of the names that are still out there were all the DJs we kind of grew up on and were at the original high school parties. So that's what we tried to recreate. So part of the whole free thing just came out of the fact, it's not that we're not business people and didn't want to make money, we just felt that we'd just come together and do this free. And it just happened that way, that we got a municipal park, and obviously free, as anybody knows that's given events like yourself, free kind of escalates into more and more and more when you haven't really thought the whole plan out. So free.
Or what?
More of everything that costs money that's not free, such as insurance and security and fees and taxes. So over the years, we tried to maintain that through out of our own pockets, through fundraising, through T-shirt sales and bar and whatever you could get. And just after COVID, it kind of emerging out of COVID, everything has gone up. And we just decided it's time to, try to monetize it a little bit. But we still came with a very reasonable price for a 4-day festival last year at $60, with almost 100 different DJs on 3 stages. So we're still in the pocket of trying to bring something affordable to the community, but still in our way.
So 9 editions now, not counting the pandemic versions, I guess, which were a bit weird and community fracturing for everyone. Do you still see the same people there? Like, what is the percentage of original community? There's a volunteer corps as well, and all the people who work on it and set up food trucks and provide the kind of the emotional weather of this.
We still have a very strong support of our volunteers and the infrastructure that makes the festival work. But what we have seen, unfortunately, it's just an economy of scale that when you take something that was free to a paid model, you are going to lose certain people. And it's not, you lose people just because maybe somebody can't afford whatever it is, and you also lose people because just people refuse to pay what it is. So it's whatever reason they have. And you can't always think that what you're offering is exactly what everybody wants. Promoters are all arrogant enough to think that we're offering exactly what you need and exactly what you want, but that's not always the case. And, the door shows that. So Charivari exists upon, whether you accept what we're trying to dish out, and whether the price point is right. So we have to tweak a price point that works for the expenses we have to pay, but also for what we think the target market will bear.
For John, I'm wondering if you can, I'm looking for your story on getting involved in underground resistance and, coming out of like party culture. I guess you first spun records professionally in like the late 70s. And what was it that brought you there?
Well, not professionally in the late, well, actually it was the late 70s. So, as I said before, DJing was never a career goal for me. I just fell into it. I went to a club and saw a young lady DJing, and I'm like, I can do that, I think. And I wanted to supplement my income. I started buying records, practicing, and became a DJ. We had to audition back in the day to get the job. So
how long did that take?
Well, it didn't take long. It didn't take long. But my plan was I would do it 5 years, and that was it. Get out. But I'm here today, many years later, and I never dreamed that so much would develop for me from becoming a DJ. Because DJs today are completely different from what they were back in the day. Mm-hmm. And there's so much, so much more you can do, so many other opportunities. And
how did you are?
Okay, yeah,
how did you get in that club?
So I'm DJing a lot of clubs around Detroit. My name is well known. A friend of mine, Joy Santiago, who owned a booking agency, we started working together. And at the time, she booked everybody who's anybody out of Detroit worldwide. Started working together, and we booked Underground Resistance as well. So, and everybody. A few years later, she decided to go into real estate because she said, I'm not making enough money. And she left. I kept the company. And eventually, we had our own office. So I eventually moved into the Underground Resistance building within an office as the booking agent. And eventually started, I was already DJing, but I became a part of the production team there and an official DJ and producer of Underground Resistance. And that was in 90-something. No, I'm sorry, early 2000s, I think.
Can you talk a little bit about those early days, maybe in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and what Underground Resistance relationship was with the community, up-and-coming producers? There's a lot of new tech to learn, and it was expensive. Not everybody had the access to this stuff, and what those connections were between the group and the city and the community.
Well, UR has always been very connected to the community. That is one thing we really, really are concerned about, and we advocate for. We've had community events in our building, but we also specifically like to encourage and bring up the younger generation of DJs and producers, sometimes even giving them studio space. So all the DJs who have come through UR, it's a collective. We're all like-minded and representing Detroit. And our music is Afrofuturistic, but in a way that would make African Americans or Black people proud. And it's all about connecting, being truthful, and being the best we can be as DJs and producers.
And also really keeping alive this idea of independence and self-determination, and have managed to stay completely.
Yeah, we sort of frown on the majors. We always have. As an independent label, you have control. With signing with a major, you don't. And we sort of, Mike Banks and Jeff Mills, when they founded Underground Resistance, they sort of looked at Motown, the way Motown was ran, how Berry Gordy did everything within production, PR, everything was done in-house. And we do the same thing. So we had studios, booking agency, record store, everything done within, and that's how we were able to maintain that independence, and we feel very strongly and encourage DJs and producers who have come through to form your own company because you have control.
Carmen, for you, this kind of interstitial, intergenerational position that you occupy here, how has that sort of like influenced? I mean, you touched on it a little bit in the night thing, but like even conceiving of yourself as an artist and musician, and the role of Detroit kind of history and living community on that journey for you.
Well, I definitely, the influence is very strong. I'm very proud to be from Detroit, to have grown up among the DJs that I did get to observe. I think naturally anything you do coming out as an artist or a DJ from Detroit, you're going to keep in mind just from watching people over the years, it's got to be authentic. You've got to be serious about your craft, put in the work. Like, it's definitely not, it's a serious thing. You know, all the DJs involved, they're really throwing down, they're really passionate about it. So that naturally comes through in whatever you pursue artistically. So I take that with me. And I think just the music style, it's almost like an unexplainable thing, kind of like an energetic thing that comes with you as you create and intuitively are connecting with how you want to express your music. So that's why I'm just blessed to be from Detroit, but sometimes it's kind of unexplainable. I think the root that is in Detroit, the soul that comes out of the house or the techno, and I think what's cool about Detroit, it inspires people to have drive because our city is not, it has some major aspects, but it's not a highly developed, stable all the time economic community. So I think your drive is to be great at what you do so you can go further than Detroit and also provide something new for Detroit. So I think you just drive, passion, soul, authenticity are all things that I've had as an influence from other artists in the community.
And such a great community of artistic resources. Are there particular artists that you would allow yourself to be critiqued by? Is there a teasing that goes on so that nobody embarrasses Detroit when they're starting to make records and stuff like that? How does it work?
I think it's cool. I do have a good relationship with a lot of like the older DJs that would be considered veterans, have put out music, traveled the world. So they definitely are keeping an eye, and they give me good critique, good feedback. I'm sure if it wasn't good, they'd kind of just be quiet or whatever, disappear. So it's very clear what's approved or not, but it's all very supportive. And it's really great, and I've felt that I've had mentors as I've grown as a DJ too. Even I've worked closely with Delano Smith, and I remember playing some songs at his house once, and he's like, that's great. And I played one that was like more, just the influence was more Latin, maybe more foreign, and he was like, I don't know if that crowd, he was, I don't know if that would work here, so open to help and open to, stay true to what's going to work in Detroit, what works for our culture. So, You
want to say something, John? Did you?
No, we would correct you. we would. No, but that's what we're supposed to do, to put you on the right track. But you're on the right track, so congratulations on it.
Thank you.
Let me expand on the DJ thing just a little. I mean, because they're both DJs. I used to be a DJ, but sometimes people say it's all about support, but anybody that's been a DJ, it's a highly competitive thing too. So your necessity to be better is also because there's DJs in the crowd at every event in Detroit, and it's like piranha sometimes. You're looking and you think you're playing. No, the DJs are watching.
They're criticizing you. I'm like, that mix wasn't about shit, that type of thing.
Exactly.
I can do better. Why is he up there?
Exactly. And everybody, it's a feeding frenzy sometimes because in any major city, there's only so many slots. Okay. And there's only so many residencies. There's only so many people that can be put on by a promoter. And the DJs, it's just not a bad thing. It's a competition. And it's always who can be better and who can do something better and introduce some new music. And it's no different. The culture came up with DJs were actually putting blank sheets of paper on the disc so no other DJ could see what they're playing. I mean, so this is not some friendly kumbaya. We all love each other. The DJ profession is
and black it out.
Carnivorous.
That's important. Quality control.
There you go.
So everybody here is an ambassador of this thing that Detroit built. namely techno, also house music, of course, and that mix that I love. And it's supermassive. It's made like, huge stars out of many of its marquee producers. It's spilled beyond Detroit's borders. I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about the Detroit Techno Museum, John, and why that exists. Or, it's kind of obvious, but there are some other kind of political reasons for this.
It's called Exhibit 3000, which is actually the address of our building, but it's the first techno museum in the world, contrary to what you may have read online. And actually, it was Mike Banks' idea to develop a museum that told the truth. Now, before UR's museum, the Detroit Historical Museum did a techno exhibit. I was a consultant on that exhibit, and the plan, and it was a good one, the plan was that it would run for 2 or 3 years in Detroit and then travel the world. Well, it never traveled the world. So while that exhibit was going on, we were already developing our museum, at UR. So it's a good thing that Mike had that, knowledge to create a museum, because now it's the only one, and it gives you a complete history of Detroit techno, which was, of course, founded by 4 African Americans. And so it's just important that the accurate information is out to the world, because a lot of people don't really know that techno was created by black people. And so it's like the common denominator for techno around the world. It was there first, and then it went every place else. So it's a very, the museum gives a history of Detroit, but we also talk about other issues in Detroit that may, coincide with what we're talking about in terms of the history, because we mentioned Afrofuturism, it's political, it's soulful, all those ingredients are the basis of Detroit techno.
Todd, do you want to talk a little bit about cultural appropriation and
You probably knew I was going to say something, but I don't. Me personally, I don't speak on behalf of Detroit, but to me, there's no such thing as Detroit techno. There's just techno, and it happened to be created in Detroit by black people. And that's, people, that's not like a bad thing, that it's a racial thing. It's not a racial thing. It just happened to be. But I think marketing-wise, over the years, the culture cannot be changed over the years like the history of it. It has a finite date and a finite position. But people have moved the flag because each person that creates something wants it to be at their position. So now you have all these different names for techno, this techno, this techno, this techno, and now the original techno is called Detroit techno. So they can put that date stamp on anything that you're talking it's Detroit techno. It's not Detroit techno. It started techno in Detroit, and everything else branched off from there. So when you say the word appropriation, that's the problem I have with that. Over the years, marketing-wise, obviously, techno has grown into this billion-dollar industry, and everybody's claimed a piece of it and does not want to go back to some 20-something-year-old black folks in Detroit created this monster. But the facts are the facts.
Agreed.
So we've all lived through this sort of rip in the time-space continuum over the last couple of years. How did you all manage to stay connected with your communities during that sort of lockdown, shut-in time? And how did you cope yourselves? How have you been, feeling about? Oh, I'll get to the second part later. But how did you cope yourselves, and how did you stay with your community?
With Charivari Detroit, just as the festival brand itself, obviously COVID immediately shelved everybody's plans of doing anything. So what you found is everybody scrambled to the internet in some shape or form. So what we found is you had to take a quick dive and lesson in becoming a streamer. We didn't know anything about streaming. So it was a quick lesson of finding out that, people will, if they have nothing better to do, they will watch DJs that they love and listen to the music they like on their computers. So what we did immediately is build the infrastructure, buy the computers, buy all the equipment and all the things, and we started actually filming DJs all over the city. And we actually found that it was actually, you know, COVID is horrible, but it was actually nice that every DJ was at home. So everybody picked up the phone no matter who you called.
All available.
And all of a sudden, it wasn't just about a DJ booth or anything like that. You were filming guys in their kitchen. You were filming people in their backyard. You were filming, I mean, you've all seen DJs all over the world now because of streaming. I mean, we filmed John. We filmed everybody that was in Detroit, we filmed. You know, then what we found is, okay, more content. And then all of a sudden, because every DJ in the world was at home, it was just a phone call. And then you were starting to get video coming in from all over the world, which we streamed on Mixcloud for the whole entire pandemic. And it was, the pandemic, I'm not saying it was wonderful, but the access to the DJs was wonderful, and the access to expand your brand and what you were trying to do to the world was easy breezy of just click and there you were. So we transitioned into 24 hours just streaming content constantly. And, you know, that was good for the brand, and bad for the world, good for the brand.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think I was definitely working closely during the stream. I was up doing some crazy hours. I do some editing on the side. So yeah, just keeping content like rolling. It was like it was a new task. Like, we want to keep this going. Momentum was building. There was a great audience. But I will say, as he mentioned, there was some blessings in disguise for DJs. I think at first everybody panicked because it's like, especially if you were a newer DJ, it was like, I was just getting my feet going. Now there's no gigs. No one's going to know my name, blah, blah. But it actually was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. You now had an opportunity, like he said, to put yourself in front of the world that, like those people from Paris or, you know, Africa were not coming to Detroit this summer to see you anyway. But now everybody is having a bigger access. So it almost, it kind of opened a door even wider than you would have thought some of the in-person stuff would have been. Especially, I think, for new DJs, I definitely noticed I was newer at the start of lockdown, but I even noticed more people emerging because more people had time to tap into that. And some DJs that I know that are like touring now, they really built their fan base because of Twitch and how they were just constantly streaming. And for myself, I got to start a female-based radio program where I was interviewing DJs and having them do an hour-long episode. And they were from all over the world, so that was cool. In the midst of utilizing the time that I didn't have to connect, I was doing Zoom interviews with people from all over the world, which otherwise I would have never sat down and, done that. So I think it opened up a door just to note the value on like the international connection we have through the web and all that. So,
and just also the reassurance of everyone like having a phone call, like, in their homes by themselves. Go ahead, John.
Well, that's the thing. The technology kind of flattened the world, and all of a sudden people were talking that weren't talking before, didn't even know each other, because you found yourself, hey, I got to find something to do. I'm going to Google what are they doing in Berlin, or what, and you met people that could just be reached out to right now. Everybody was home looking for something to do. I mean, I think we're here because of COVID, of finding Matthew online and finding out what you guys were doing here and what we were doing. We connected with the June Festival. We connected with the Chosen Few. We connected with West Coast Weekender and House in the Park in Atlanta. These connections occurred during the pandemic because everybody was looking for something to do. And your creativity or your sense of promotion and trying to survive, that's the nature of brands, period. Not just the DJ's brand. All brands were seeking to survive a pandemic, and you saw people do all sorts of things that are now part of the dynamic now. It hasn't gone away, because everybody learned companies have learned that, you get more productivity out of some employees by having them be at home. So that didn't go away now that COVID is so-called gone, even though it's not gone, but people are still at home working. And this is just the new dynamic, and you always have to evolve and adapt and figure it out.
Well, Carmen, the old DJs panicked as well.
Yeah.
Everybody panicked. For me, after I got over the shock of lockdown and not being accessible or not, DJing or going here and going there, depression set in for me. So it wasn't like, for me, okay, we're locked down, everything is, we got to do live streaming, but there was a lot of other psychological issues that a lot of people, felt. For me, I live right down the street from a nursing home. And during the pandemic, in Detroit at that time, I heard ambulances 24 hours a day leaving the nursing home, taking people to the hospital or people dying. So, psychologically, I kind of did a track. I recorded the sirens, and it was like it was really weird. So that was a way of me dealing with it. But eventually, just staying home, I didn't do live streaming immediately, and I saw everybody doing it. I just wasn't ready. People like, okay, John, when you go to live stream, come on, John, we're waiting. And I think the first one I did was with United We Stream, which was really good. And later on I did Charivari, and then some other streaming. But I just didn't feel like doing it all the time, and I didn't want to wear my, people get sick and tired of seeing me, because sometimes, okay, you see the DJ streaming and he's just standing there, he or she, and eventually like, okay, I don't have to look at him or her, I'll just listen to the music. So it was definitely a life-changing experience. It changed me, the way I work, we all work. I was definitely very scared because I didn't know, I was going to be here today or tomorrow, or my family who may contract this disease. And as Todd said, it's still here. Of course, thank God it's not like it was. So it was a very, very transitional, life-changing experience for me, personally, professionally.
What does that mean for re-entry into, first of all, music is so social. So the idea of musicians being separated from each other and audiences is just already like weird. That's weird. So when you're like, I don't know if I assume actually everyone started a little bit earlier than Quebec, rejoining the world or re-entering. How has it been for you? Like, are you so changed that, who do you see when you go play out, now? Like, what does it feel like?
Well, now we see everybody because everything is open in the United States. And a lot of the same people, who were going out before, a lot of new people. And the other thing is, there's camaraderie in the Detroit scene, and there are certain people who are always there supporting. So it's almost like a family thing. But it's getting better. This is my first trip out of the country since last time I was 2019 in Australia, and I have gotten invites to go places, but I just wasn't ready to do it. So this is the first time it's close to home, but I will be traveling more. So it's a lot better. So we're getting very good.
Todd, do you think that, are we all just going back to what it was, or is something new emerging?
No, I don't think anybody will ever go back to the way it was, because I think this is a permanent part of the landscape. I don't think COVID, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but COVID's going nowhere. It's going to be just like the flu. You're going to have to take whatever precautions make you comfortable. This is not just about coming out and partying. This is every day. So you still, whatever city you go to, we never stopped traveling. We just kept doing what we're doing because we just felt it was permanent, and you took precautions of what you thought was proper. So even now, with it so-called being open in the United States, you can go to a party, and there's a percentage of people that still have on masks. There's a percentage of people that just don't go. But then there's new people that have emerged that are now part of the scene. The scene will always replace itself. Everybody sometimes puts themselves above the scene, and I'm so important from the scene. The scene is just a big ocean, and we're all just rocks that, you could throw it in there, and for a second you might cause a ripple by your absence, but it goes back to what it is. And that's any DJ that doesn't want to perform because of COVID or travel anywhere, they will call someone else. Any promoter that doesn't want to go to this venue because this venue doesn't have the special ventilation or whatever, they'll get another promoter. Everything continues regardless, and you have to take whatever precautions you think make you feel safe for you and your family. It's an individual choice. Now, obviously, we have to follow any government with a festival. We have to follow government mandates, or they won't grant you the license or the liquor license or whatever. And we take whatever precautions that they tell us they have to pay. And it's a long list of things, that you have to do this, whether it be the 6 feet thing at the time, or if you have to have a disaster protocol. You do what you have to do.
I'm going to touch upon this idea a little that we talked about a little bit before, but so there's been this rip in the space-time continuum, and the values and ethics and kind of vibe of a community was also interrupted. Do you feel like that is still the Detroit feeling and all of the stuff that you yourselves value about being a part of that community? Is that still there and fully intact? Is it shifting? What are you noticing?
I think it's fully intact. And I think, as John says, it's like a family, and everybody is to me coming out in full support of all parties, as much as possible. The clubs, everybody's trying to get the clubs back on their feet, the festivals back on their feet, the DJs back on every aspect of this community. And we sometimes put things in hierarchy of the DJs and the promoters, but this affected every aspect of it. Bartenders, security, regular workers, car attendants. There's so much more that goes into the service industry than just the hype of some DJs or promoters and all that. It's a whole structure of people that are delivering beer or anything, and that was an economy that was really hard hit. And everybody tried to do different fundraisers and things like that, and some of it worked and some of it didn't. But so it's just good to see it all coming back. It's not all just fun and games. This is still a business, and to see people be able to feed their families and stuff, that's a big part of it.
Maybe anyone can jump in on this question, but is this magical reciprocity, you touched on it, everyone did a little bit before, of Detroit artists with hometown communities. They're a phone call away. There are things like the Backpack Music Festival to help kids with school stuff, mentoring initiatives, community music hubs. Can you give me some more examples, or maybe there are some examples that grew out of the pandemic that are still going on that are these kinds of reciprocity programs?
I think a lot of organizations or have grown out of the pandemic in helping people, because a lot of people needed help. If it was even providing food for people or fundraisers to donate money, a lot of GoFundMe campaigns were happening. And that continues. And in terms of people in Detroit have always given back, and you reference the Backpack Music Festival, which was a festival that the entrance was a backpack with school supplies, and we would donate those backpacks and supplies to high schools, elementary schools, homeless shelters, adoption agencies, and we also did a literacy program. So just reaching out and trying to help people, and that's what Detroit is all about. And that continues with many, many, many people and groups in Detroit.
So we can go back to talking about parties now.
And the DJ is most important, Todd. I'm just joking.
I want to maybe talk about best parties, meaningful events, how you make those. I mean, the DJ has a really important role, of course. But I'm looking for a couple of examples of maybe what the ingredients you are that you think makes a party outstanding, and how do you recognize and cultivate that when you are making a party?
Let the promoter start.
Let the promoter start. Remember, I was a DJ first. I think, first of all, I don't think there's any secret recipe to a good anything. I think everybody thinks they have the answer, but I think the best thing that you try to do is that, remember, in every aspect of this business, you are of service to someone else. That a great event for me is when, say, this is the audience is having a great time listening to what we're doing up here is the service. You know, you as the moderator of, or as us as the speakers, but the only one that gauges the good time is the audience. So that's how I look at parties. When I go into parties, I look at, are the people leaving at the end of the night, did they have a good experience? How do I give that experience? If that's giving them the DJ they want or the music they want, is the bar, it goes down, are the drinks strong? Is the fee affordable? Were the security courteous? Are the parking lot attendants courteous? An event structure is every aspect of that thing, because one person can throw off your whole experience. So sometimes each avenue, and I'm not picking on DJs, but DJs always think it's about, woo, I killed it, I got the crowd. But sometimes
not
the door person could have ruined the whole night. John could have gave an incredible set, but everybody's going home talking about, that was a jerk at the door, that was all in my bags and searched me all hard. So no matter what he did, the experience was bad. So I just think you have to have a full 360 view of what you're trying to do, and the end result is the people. The people in attendance are the whole soul of this whole industry. And I think sometimes all of us seem to forget that, and you got to be of service. And you got to be, are you planning somebody else having a good time, not you having a good time, or you having some glory, or you making some money. It's really it's not always a win. Everybody, it looks very glorious sometimes, and you're trying to make all this money and it looks fabulous, but sometimes it's just about getting it done. That's my opinion.
Well, I'm a DJ, of course. And of course, for me, it's very important when I'm performing or doing a set that I connect with the people on the dance floor, because my job is to take the crowd on a musical journey that they would enjoy. Maybe play some things that they know, but I also like to introduce new music and connecting. And the most important thing for me as a DJ is that connection where I can feed off of the energy from the crowd and they feed off of me. So it's like osmosis. It's like this is coming from me to them and back to me. So I think the DJ is under a lot of pressure at the club to make that happen. And of course, the vibe is always very, very important. And some venues, the vibe is better than others. But it depends on, I guess, what else is going on in the club. I agree with a lot of things that Todd said. Like the bouncer, the security guard at the door can be a downer. Because if they treat you bad, then you put in your reference or frame of mind is like, oh, I'm angry. I had to wait an hour to get in. He's been, hard on me. So that can be a downer, but also people come to clubs to forget their problems, to enjoy the music, and just to exist in an atmosphere or a space that is harmonious, that is beautiful, and that's it.
I think for me, a little bit, I'm very visual. I pay attention to marketing. So I almost want to say, for me, I think the start of a great party is what your flyer looks like, in my opinion, what the names look like, how it's arranged, what the colors are. Like, that really sets a tone for me of like, this looks exciting, or it's got this look to it, or, oh, this looks kind of dark, I'm not going to go. Like, depending what you fits you. So I think marketing is like really exciting, and that makes everybody that you want to get involved more equally like, hey, this looks good, I'm going to share this with my people. And then I think obviously both things that they said, but also you would just hope everybody you bring together for a party, DJs, bartenders, everybody that does the service, you would just hope everybody is coming in with the same passion and excitement to be there. Because I think sometimes you can hire a DJ or hire a sound guy and they're just like, I'm just trying to get a paycheck and go home. Well, that's another part of your, soup, that ingredient's just sitting there like, that's an energy thing that might throw it off. So I think, just having people that are passionate about what they're doing still in their position is going to, hopefully bring a great night. So
So we only have a few minutes left, and I know that we're also not going to solve all of the problems of like nighttime policy. But John, you've been on all kinds of boards and commissions, doing the politicking, being Detroit's nightmare. We've talked about, we all have opinions on this as well, but maybe you can talk about a couple of things that you think should change in Detroit's nightlife policy that would make things better. And then the question to everyone as well.
Well, yes, we've also been exploring trying to get a 24-hour nighttime economy, or 24-hour economy in Detroit, and run into some issues. I guess, I think we would like to work towards, if we could extend hours of operation in a safe way. We have to also make people aware of what different licenses are available to do certain things. For instance, to get a license to stay open later, a lot of people don't know that, and it's our job to inform them and educate them of that. And with the Entertainment Commission, we work with people come to us to see how they can navigate through the city of Detroit to put events on or to learn how to do events. So we also do that as well. So there's a lot that goes on, a lot that we need to improve upon to make Detroit a viable. And it's not that it's not viable, because we do have a very, I think, strong entertainment. The industry is very strong there. Our scene is strong. We have parties a lot, very, very good parties, a lot of nice venues to go to. And, that's what I think.
I feel like for me, being kind of more in the wave of the newer generation, just seeing how some of the systems have already worked, seeing how some of the newer people would like different things, wishing that our city board, or even at a state level for Michigan, that we had more of a department or a board that actually focused on that culture, the music and entertainment side. It seems very separate from the people that are passionate about it, whether it's the promoter or the musician or the audience, to the businessman that's sitting in the city office. They're just there for their job, signing off stuff. They don't have a real care for what that does for the city. They don't really connect to it. So it's almost like I wish there was, maybe it is generational, but also just, a more tie between, we are handling what needs to happen in a city level, very official, but we also have a creative element where we're going to make this all very cohesive and provide the right resources, because I think sometimes it's even hard if you want to initiate something in Detroit in a music or cultural event to get approval in the city and the state. It's so hard to access somebody. There's not really a department, or it just takes so long. So I think hoping that as new leaders come into those positions too within councils, that we have a more of a connection with the things that we care about. I know I have a friend I went to high school with, and she ran for office and won her position, and she's already reaching out to me knowing I'm a DJ, like, hey, I'd love to talk to you and your dad just to get more informed about the music culture, what people would love to see more of for Detroit. So I think that generational thing, there's younger people that will become in position and be like, hey, this is something that's important to our generation and the culture of Detroit. How can we cater to making this cohesive and more a part of our city? So hopefully over time that will continue to improve the connection.
And part of it is something we had talked about before. There's too many gatekeepers. And with all things in the community and culture and everything, sometimes it's city bureaucracy, sometimes it's people in charge of commissions and things like that, have become these pseudo gatekeepers over who can do what, when can they do it, and why they can do it. And I think they all have to get out of the way. It goes back to my analogy about being of service. You forget why you're even there. You're there for the service of the community at large, not your agenda or the agenda of the faction of people you work for, or who slid you some money, or who slid you a nod for a job, a future job, or something like that. And I think this all gets lost sometimes, that if everybody was just of service, more things would be getting done for the so-called community. Community sometimes has just become this buzzword, but it's really factions. And factions have these different representatives and these different goals, and community is just a nice buzzword to act like we all get along, but we are part of our own little tribes, and we're all trying to get our little pieces of land and stuff. And we need to all like kind of look up the word community and figure out what that actually means, and is that really what you want to be a part of? Because I think it could be better if that's what happened.
And I think a lot of rules and regulations have to be changed in government, state, city, and state-wise. Things that worked before just don't work now. And there are people who have been in positions for many, many, many years who are not willing to change, and they're not really open to it. And they don't know anything about it. So it's a constant education of trying to get them to understand, what we're doing, what this music is about, what it's done for the world. I mean, techno and house is just as big as Motown around the world. So they know about Motown, but it's a constant struggle, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
So we have a few minutes for questions, if anybody would like to holler something. I see you. Sure.
How did we know you were going to be the first question?
Well, I don't know. Did you know?
Because you had those striped pants on, that's why we knew.
Maybe. Well, I'm curious about the thing is you probably traveled around the world before pandemic, as far as understood mostly. And what is like when you arrive to a place completely far, maybe Budapest or I don't know, somewhere in Palestine or whatever, and you encounter a club that focus on techno and basically modeled kind of, through pages and layers of history with from the original techno experience that came up from the Detroit. How do you think about that? How do you find this development? Do you think it's like progressive or just repetitive? Do you think it moves the scene forward or just repeats itself? Or do you find some surprising things that, that's cool, we should thought about that, doing that at home or something like this? So what's your experience about that?
Well, if you're speaking about performing in other places?
Performing or just visiting, when you were somewhere else, I would not say in the United States, but if you go, for example, Europe or other continent.
Other country, yes.
Yeah, and you encounter the same experience but completely different
of course, it's a different culture, of course, for us. So wherever I go, any place, I try to learn as much as I can or even read up about it before I go. I mean, because I'm the DJ, normally the experience with the people that I'm around me is very, very, pleasant. Oftentimes, when we travel to other places, you could be the only black DJ on the lineup, which could be a little, it is what it is. In terms of performing with Detroit techno, whatever, for me, I mean, I played whatever I feel the crowd I can give them and connect with them. And it ends up being a very, very worthwhile experience for myself and them as well. Now, I've had, people say a few things about me in other places while I was playing online, because people are, writing while you're DJing and, you read it later like, dang, she said that, and I don't like dancing to black DJs, and all that kind of stuff happens. But that's just part of the way it is, so we deal with it.
No, but I mean more, for example, you come to Brussels and you perform in a church, which is a completely different architectural style and place, and it's not comfortable, and space and in general. So do you think do you find it that a good development of the scene, or do you find it's like a bad development for the scene because it should stays in the, in the original kind of boundaries? Space. I don't know.
The original space. Well, I mean, in terms of, what I found that, traveling, of course, overseas, parties can be in churches, could be in a palace. It could be, different spaces that in the United States we don't have spaces like that. So it's always a very interesting experience. I don't know if you're asking me, does it limit, my experience? And I'm just a bit confused as to.
I think what you might be saying is to hold on to the original scene. I think there is no holding on in this industry. This industry is set up to evolve at all times. Now, from a historical standpoint, what we were talking about earlier is just knowing the history of where a particular scene came from. That's just facts. That's history. But as far as where the scene is going, this whole industry is about adaptation and evolvement at all times. It's new technology coming in. It's new lighting, new sound, everything. So when you go to these other cultures, you go to these other cities, you go to these other age ranges, you should always see something. Me as an old head, I want to see constant evolvement. I don't want to go hear a thing I heard in the 70s. I want it to keep moving. And I want to be a part of that as long as I can and then hand it off to continue to evolve. This whole thing, we had a conversation last night about this whole industry is about legacy, okay? And it's about letting go sometime, that the old should always be trying to teach and mentor and hand off. And sometimes you hold on to it too long, it can be lost because you didn't try to teach and you didn't try to mentor anything. Like you just wanted it all for yourself. So everywhere you go to see something new, like I'm very happy to be here in Montreal. I want to see the laser show. I want to see the big dome thing. Whatever you guys have to offer, that's what I want to see. And anything I can steal from you, I want to take back and enhance my own thing. Because it's constant evolvement. Constant. And if you cannot adapt, then you're just a dinosaur. You're just going to go away. And who wants that?
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, right. I don't make a dinosaur.
Mathieu, can we allow Ioanni to ask a question?
Hello, my name is Ioanni Fergara. I'm the guy who did the study on the nightlife, and his question about going around the world had me thinking, because what we're doing here is also trying to figure out how we can organize in Montreal and the whole legal context. And we have to be honest, we live in a really paternalistic society, I think, in North America compared to other places. So in your experience of going around the world and seeing how it's done elsewhere, where do you think that we have a good balance between making sure people are safe when they're partying and they're not in a rave with stuff falling off on their heads from a warehouse, and actually having the freedom to create the experiences that are fun and for everyone?
If we continue to look at this as being of service, we can have a good blend between the people that create this industry and the people that are trying to put the rules in to make sure things are safe. You made a good point about who wants to go to the old warehouse where the roof caves in. Now the promoter was saying, "Oh, I was just packing them in. I didn't know the roof was going to cave in." But that's the part the municipalities want to be a part of. There needs to be more conversation. Every aspect of this business needs to come to the table as a truthful and honest, communicator that what are you trying to get out of it? And let's all talk and see what we want. We want security. Everybody thinks promoters and DJs just want to have a big black warehouse where we can just do whatever the hell we want all night long and tear things up. Of course we want security. Of course we want security. Of course we want, everything to work properly. So I think if everybody would just come to the table and talk, I don't get the nightlife thing. I don't get why we think that 2 a.m. in North America, whatever, is this magic number that if we close from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., nothing bad's going to happen. If I want to get drunk and you're going to stop serving me at 2 a.m., I'm going to drink heavy all the way into 2 a.m. It doesn't, oh man, I wish I could have drank till 4 and I'd be drunk. I'm going to be drunk. So you can't monitor grown-ups' behaviors. They just let people do what they want to do with the proper rules. I think everybody really wants to follow the rules. I think the old guard, as John was saying, is you're stuck in this thing of stereotypes of what you think happens with electronic music and techno. They think it's just a bunch of drunk kids getting high and tearing up things and stuff like that. And that's just marketing. How can we market ourselves better to make all these people see what we're doing? Everybody else does a better job at showing that a jazz festival is going to be all great and nothing's going to happen. But as soon as you say techno or house music, everybody's like, oh my God, no, don't approve that. Don't let them use our city parks. Don't let them,
Well, but then if hours are extended and somebody has been drinking a lot and they're drunk, if hours are extended, there could be an area where you could go chill out and come down and serve some food to help you get sober. So I don't, a lot of people, 2 o'clock, this last call, everybody rushes to the bar, get those last drinks, but then a lot of accidents and sometimes deaths occur after the club closes at 2 o'clock. Extend those hours, let people stay there, let them get a cup of coffee, whatever it takes, and we have to encourage that. And that's just another way of making sure that extended nightlife can be a success and safe.
We have to go. This has been really lovely, and thank you so much for all being so generous in your answers and your time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for taking time to be with us and for schooling us. And transfer of knowledge is all about what we've been doing today. We ran into some difficulties upstairs, so we're moving the panel about the emerging queer scenes downstairs. We're going to hold it here. We're going to shorten it a little bit, so it's going to be 45 minutes, but we're going to start right now. So just so we can have our host and then hear them, because I think it's important. It's an important topic to cover for us in terms of nightlife. Chris Ngabonziza, if I pronounce it well, is going to host it for Fierté Montréal, Pride Montreal. So we're really proud to have him. So Chris, you can introduce your guests and take your place on the stage. Thank you so much.
As a promoter, if I didn't tell you, the Charivari Festival is the second weekend in August. You should come to Detroit.
I'll be there. I know I'll be there. So.
Test 1 2 1 2. Hello everybody. Thank you for being here. Bonjour à tous et à tous. Je m'appelle Chris Ngabonziza, je suis le directeur de la programmation du festival Fierté Montréal. Mes pronoms sont il, lui. Voilà. Donc je vais être votre humble modérateur pour le panel de tout de suite. Vous allez voir, notre panel est assez varié, donc on va se promener entre l'anglais et le français comme des vrais Montréalais, Montréalaises qui se respectent bien. Hein. Et sans plus tarder, je vais m'asseoir pour que vous puissiez voir nos amis panélistes. On va commencer par notre amie Marlene Désir, la fondatrice de... We should switch to English. Huh? You asked me to do in English, so should we do it in English? All right. So, Marlene Désir, founder of Sweet and Honey over there. Show some love, yeah?
Hi, everyone. I don't think it works.
Then we got Eliane Courcy-Dion from Nouveau Production. Eliane. And last but not least, we have Charlie Morin from the Full Moon Party collection.
Hey. Hello, hello, hello.
So I'd like for you guys to take like a quick moment to really sort of like proper introduce your lovely selves to everybody, and then we try to get into this thing. All right. Tu veux commencer?
Hi everyone, so my name is Eliane. I'm the co-founder of Voulez-vous Production. Voulez-vous Production mainly caters to artists that are queer women or gender non-conforming people. And so we started back in February 2019 because we wanted to create a space within the burlesque community for queer women and gender non-conforming individuals. And since then, we've been producing happy hours for the same target audience and the blush parties, which is a club night that showcases the talent of DJs, drag, and burlesque performers in the city.
Amazing. Charlie?
Hi, I'm Charlie Morin, and I'm a part of Full Moon Party, or Attention, with Full Moon. So Full Moon is a pandemic baby. We started in 2020, and we felt there was a need to bring the queer community together, bring the music to the forefront, and also creating liberating alternative spaces with in a political and hedonistic way at the same time. So that's what we do.
Amazing. Marlene?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marlene. I'm the founder of Sweet Like Honey. We're about to turn 1 year old in June, so another pandemic baby. So Sweet Like Honey, we organize and cater events for queer, trans, Black, Indigenous people of color who relate to the lesbian, sapphic experience. And the main reason is just due to a lack of spaces here in Montreal, where it was very hard to find places where we could hear sometimes music or see artists that we relate to, a lack of representation, even though our community has so much awesome, amazing talent. And we do a variety of events. Some of them are parties, some of them are more get-togethers with activities. And our most recent event that happened this past Tuesday was a lesbian strip night.
Wow, amazing. All right, so I would like to start by pointing out the title of the discussions, Emerging Queer Scenes. It's the word emerging that I find a little bit loaded, really, and interesting. Queer scenes are not emerging. Queer scenes have always been here. Queer scenes, have existed against all kinds of odds. And showing such a resilience and teaching us about openness and inclusiveness, and also truly generating all kinds of fabulous cultures that the society have been enjoying over the years. So, the emerging part is not, I think what we're going to be talking is really, it's not really the queer history, but rather how the queer scenes have adapted and changed over the years. So it's got a bit of a cultural and maybe political inclination. So I just wanted to kind of point that out real quick. And so we're just going to start with my first question is, why do we do what we do? Why is a vibrant queer nightlife scene necessary for the recovery of their city, especially given what we all just been through? But also, why is it necessary? Why is a vibrant queer scene nightlife scene truly necessary, and for the well-being and mental health of so many of the people in our communities? I would like to start with Eliane.
All right. So I'll tell you a little story. So on my part, I've been a youth intervention crisis worker within the queer community for numerous years before burning out so bad that I could never go back to this work. And I remember when I started that work, when I was going to party, I had to go party. It was an act of survival because I had too much rage inside of me and I didn't want it to consume me. And I found, not release, but I found like a sanctuary within spaces that had been catered by many, many mentors that I've had. And these were spaces where I could be totally myself, where I didn't have to hide. And when we founded Voulez-vous Production, it was because me and my co-founder Avery, who's in Paris right now, we wanted to create spaces where queer folks would be seen as they were, that they would be seen like that. The way they wanted to be perceived as sexy would be read the way they wanted to be read. And yeah. And I started with this little story because I remember going to panels or discussions or meeting with other queer folks, and I was like, I need to party so bad because I need to feel like I exist. And I remember telling people, like, I don't know if I could ever, like, I wasn't sober at all back then, let me tell you. And then now, like 5 years later, I'm on that path, so it's real great. And we keep on having people come to us and be like, hey, like your party is the first one where I can really feel myself, that I can really feel safe, that I can really feel seen and understood. And one thing that I didn't say earlier is that with Voulez-vous Production, we work with emerging artists. And for us, emerging is, this is your first gig, let's try it out. You don't need to have a video of your performance. You don't need to prove to me that you belong, that you're worth being on that stool or on that behind that DJ deck. You deserve it. Let's try it out and let's see where it goes. So that's what I would say on my part.
Thank you, Liliane. Charlie?
I find that queer nightlife is very tied to self-discovery for a lot of queers, and the spaces that are mainly commercial or mainstream offer possibilities that are very that are limited in some ways. And at Full Moon, we do what we do to bring community together with like the music we like, but also thinking of the space as like a community space where more is possible, and setting that up in that way. We're doing the party outside at Boise Steinberg. It used to be there for 2 years. Now they're building a highway there, so who knows? But great, more cars in the city. We love choices. But also I find that in terms of like thinking of community as something that is political and hedonistic is opens possibilities, because I find that historically when being queer was a repressed thing, we used to be in illegal bars and anything could go in there. Like sex was everywhere and not repressed, because like it couldn't be in our private homes, it couldn't be anywhere, and that's where like we had some like lush encounters, and it was a part of the community. If you wanted to like indulge, you could. If you didn't want to, you could also just hang with the girls. And I find that now that we've fought to like be recognized as human beings and not like receive violence, whether it is physical or like verbal or whatever, and like, yes, okay, like harassment is not totally over but went down. There's also this thing of like, well, before in those contexts, it was a fear of like having a police intervention or just like une descente policière in bars, but that was from time to time. Now, everything that happens in a bar that is legit and regulated by the city is regulated by permits, and the permits for alcohol don't go with nudity permits. So now, literally, like, okay, the police is not gonna like shut down legal venues just for the sake of queer people partying, but also what happens inside of the venue is highly regulated at every moment because it's a question of permit. So I find that queer nightlife is also like essential to build community in the way we do and used to. And it's not even something new. Like it's always been like that. It's just that now that we've reached a point where love is love and being gay is okay, which is great. Like I'm, I am in favor of gay rights, but I'm very in favor. No, but also I'm just like, I can't believe that I have to defend my right to suck a dick in a bar. Like, come on, it used to happen before. You can even do it in Toronto. Like all the big cities let dark rooms happen, have like sexual spaces like that are very open. But in Montreal, it doesn't work with the permits, and I cannot believe that I have to advocate for this. And I found that the response is often like, people are weirded out or like wonder why we would want that. And I have to take us back in history and be like, this culture comes from repression. Y'all made us do this. And now it's a cultural aspect that is very ingrained in our culture, but people want to, it's easy to give gay people rights if you're only staying on the love is love and like, oh yes, you can love whoever you want. But in terms of practice and culture, what does that mean? And how do we keep our culture alive and well without just like being accepted if we just pretend to be straight in bars where we pay $8 for a cocktail? More later on that.
Which bar did
Amazing.
you go to for an $8 cocktail? 'Cause
Literally anywhere in the village.
Yeah.
that feels cheap by now.
Yeah. Well, inflation, whatever. God bless. Bon. You want to go?
Yes, I will. So I feel like the biggest reason, especially for me, as to why the queer scene is so important here in Montreal is because the fight isn't over. There's still so much work left to do in our society. Yes, we have more rights, but it doesn't mean that all of society has become more accepting. And when I say society, I really mean even the parents, the relatives, the friends, the colleagues of myself, my fellow queer people. There's so many people that are still not accepting, meaning where can you go when even home doesn't feel like home? You know, so especially when my events that are more catered to QT BIPOC, we have all these different intersectionalities where even, let's say, the village, we have a gay village in Montreal, which is fantastic. But when you actually take a look at the gay village, what do you see? A lot of gay white men. Where are the lesbians? Where are the people of color? Where are the trans people? Even there's things that are lacking where we still need work. So at that point, where do people have to go? Where can they look for? And with this pandemic that just happened, even myself, which is how Sweet Like Honey started, was from a feeling of being isolated, of feeling lonely. And I don't feel like that's anything that anyone should be feeling. You should be able to gather with your peers, especially when you might not have that opportunity in your other spaces at home or at work to just be your authentic self, to relate to different stories, to talk about different things, just to feel validated, to feel like you matter. So that's why for me, these spaces are very important, and they've always been important. That's why they exist globally, and different countries are also fighting to have the right to even have this. But the fight isn't over. We're still pushing. There's still so much work to do. So in us, as in the first event we had, I was like, it was outside, it was in a park, and I was just like, that was just for us to just be visible, for people to see us, because it almost felt like the city forgot about us. The city didn't care about us, even though we're here, we're queer, we're very valid, and yeah, we might be a bit spread out all over, but we can definitely gather and come together. And when we do, it's so beautiful and so healing and therapeutic. And a lot of people are like, I would have never thought, I didn't even know there were so many of us here in the city. And it just helps you continue on another day, and you have just something good to look forward to. So that's pretty much all in all, briefly, how I'll say it. But also just here in Montreal, Montreal is full of culture and diversity and talent. And it should be showcased in all its aspects, in all its colors, all the time. Not just every once in a while, but consistently. So I feel like the more of us, the more organizers, the more talents, the more artists keep popping up and organizing events, the more we're trying to just tell the city, listen, look, here we are. And yes, we're also helping in a way the city with their pockets too. But it's not about that. It's about the community. It's about these individuals. It's about their survival, their existence. So that's about that.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, it really kind of also becomes very much a thing about access and resources. You were talking about, a healing place and, a sanctuary, you were saying, it's a support system for so many kids, So that brings me to the next question, how can we get the city and the authorities to really kind of work with the with our communities, the party organizers and the event planners, to really curate a queer nightlife that is safe, that is secure for everybody, Eliane?
Oh, well.
How much time do we have?
No. I'm going to try and keep it brief, but I'd say, so another hat that I wear is also being an intervention worker on dance floors. So I try and go in spaces and prevent sexual harassment, and I am always on the lookout for people that might not be feeling so well after drinking a drink or two that was too much, or depending on what they took for their party that night. I'd say so this being said, I'd say, and they are, sorry, it's because I'm reading there and I should not be doing that. It's like talking about Bitcoin and I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to hear about this. Okay. Anyways, so there are mechanisms in place and organizations that work to prevent such things. And I'd say make it mandatory, asking the city to make it mandatory that bars and clubs have such intervention workers in those spaces. Also being open about drug testing.
Absolutely.
Especially right now, and since the pandemic, the drug supplies have been going down. But I mean, the quality that what you can find on the street is not optimal at all. The opioid crisis is a real thing, even more in Montreal. It's more as the days go by, and having education being mandatory, and people, because if people they're gonna use, and I feel like I'm rambling right now, but if people are gonna use and they're afraid to tell you that they're using, then they're gonna be afraid to seek help, and I mean, stigma kills, we all know. And so that would be, and making sure also security, bouncers, doormen, etc., are trained into different types of identities, different type of interventions. So they're aware of what to do when, because let's say I was working at this club the other day and I was telling my colleague, I'm like, okay, I've got naloxone with me. For those of you here who don't know what naloxone is what you use when you encounter someone who just OD'd, and it's going to give them a shot of adrenaline while the the medical team gets there, and the bouncers didn't even know about it, and they're the one in charge of the security in those spaces. So that I'm going to keep it at that for now.
Amazing, for sure. Charlie?
I would say for me, the three main points would be, well, first, I feel we need to acknowledge that queer scenes and queer parties are not new, and that rhetoric is just to dismiss people that are already keeping that scene alive, and to dismiss their voices, hear what we have to say, because we do have a lot of things to say, but sometimes it's not necessarily what the city wants to hear. Secondly, to me, it's let us do our parties where it makes sense for us to do the parties, and stop pushing us in the outskirts. If y'all want to live on the plateau and have a quiet, for it to be quiet at all times, y'all should be living in the outskirts, and I should be able to throw my party there. That's how it should work. You can't buy your condo downtown and then expect for it to be like all quiet at night. Like if we want to have a lively city, like the noise complaints are literally killing the nightlife, and like not even just things that are underground or illegal, but also just like venues where like you sit down and have a beer. And I find that really annoying. And in terms of safety for us, it's literally prioritizing the safety of property owners that call the police over like people that party. And like, yes, we just talk about like the opioid crisis and how people OD. And like, for me, it's a lot harder to provide a secure environment if I'm doing my party super far out in the city than if it's close to where people live and where we can access service. And last thing for me is just to not only want to have queer parties because it sounds good and inclusive, but also have a deep understanding of what queer culture is and let us do whatever the fuck we want in our parties and stop policing with permits. So in Montreal, there's literally like you need to have a nudity permit for people to be able to like undress themselves in a bar. I wish I was kidding. And as I said earlier, the nudity permit, well, de facto, if you have an alcohol permit, you cannot have anyone naked or doing stuff that you do naked in your venue. And that's just a bummer because now like there's just this vibe of like, well, of course like the people who have bars and venue want to keep their venue going, and the permit is literally what gets your venue going. So if you get your permit like taken away from you, it's the worst thing that could happen. So the policing happens on the inside, and if we want to have parties with like more liberated space where we can do whatever we want, we need to do that illegally in the outskirts. It's more complicated. So, and in any big city in the world, you can do that. Like, it's literally not just a thing of like, we're going to be edgy and the first ones to do it. Everyone does it. And Montreal loves to go around and say how gay the city is, how amazing our pride is, how amazing our village is, which, true, but people don't think they get here, and there's not going to be a dark room. There's not going to be like anything to do in a bar, and you need to like, you know, take it somewhere else or go to a bathhouse. So I think Montreal deserves better, and I think it's not much. It's literally just like some permit thing. And I will finish on like, that's hilarious, but literally the people handling that part of like the nudity permit things in bars is called l'escouade de la moralité. How would you translate that? I wish like
morality police.
Yeah, there's literally a morality police that is like checking on if you're not being butt naked in a bar. Like, come on, we deserve better, Montreal.
Yeah, the permit thing, you know, like you said something the other day, like standards of tranquility. I mean, that's really something that, you know, if there's anybody from the city here, I hope you're taking notes for your next meeting. Please go.
So, yeah, I guess it comes down to 3 main points. The first one would be, it'd be amazing if the city of Montreal could also like help finance a lot of what we do. Most of us, we all started everything from our own pockets. Most of the time we don't make profit, and the money that we do get, we just try to raise from the community. Like, we exist because the community keeps funding us to continue, but at the same time, we're helping individuals of the city, meaning the same way, not the exact same way, but we're giving options to people. The same way that people thought the gyms were really important, not everyone works out in a gym. Some people, they work out on the dance floor. Not everyone has the means to go see a therapist, but hey, maybe one night just being able to gather and laugh with their friends is gonna help them sleep better that night. Meaning just finding ways to help fund, make grants more accessible for us with less jargon needed, because that's not what's gonna actually help our community. That's already one way the city could help. Another one, definitely the noise complaints. How is it that one of my first events that I had was outside in a park? Why am I receiving a noise complaint at 7 p.m.? Why am I receiving a noise complaint at 8 p.m. again? To the point where I had to plead with the police to keep going till 11, because that's what the standard normally is, which they allowed us, but then they're like, oh, but next time, think about getting a permit. For me to find out that sometimes it can take 3 months to get a permit, we're in Montreal. It is cold as hell during our winter, meaning the summer months, we don't have a lot of months to be able to partake in warm weather. And it doesn't mean that at the start of the year, I have a whole plan of all the events that I want to do. Some of these events, I think about them 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, they're there. Like, I invest my time, and meaning I don't have months to wait for a permit to finally be approved, especially if by that time it's approved, it's already the end of summer and then it's cold again. That doesn't help anyone. And even just the permits, if I don't know if any of you have tried to apply or fill one out, there is so much that is needed and necessary, meaning that's even more hours of work and labor to do, which is just not easy. So definitely the permits, whether it's the alcohol permits just to host an event outdoors in a public space, a park, just a park, but just because a few neighbors could be like, I'm hearing a little bit of bass at 5 p.m. I'm gonna complain. Then the police come, and of course, no one likes it when the police come. And we've been lucky. We're Sweet Like Honey, where we explain to them what we're doing, and we haven't been ticketed. But that's not the case for other organizations and other grassroots initiatives, where often, I definitely know last summer, so many received tickets. And again, the organizers, they don't have the money to pay for these tickets. They already use most of their own money just to make the event happen, to buy equipment, rent out equipment, pay artists, especially all these artists that needed jobs, that lost jobs over the pandemic. And we're trying to help them continue and thrive. And usually it was a community where so many GoFundMes we have going on to help us keep going. And we shouldn't have to rely on GoFundMes. The government should definitely be helping us out. And that's usually the main parts of me. Usually it's financing, noise complaints, and the permits.
Amazing. The permit thing is really an important part, because when we don't have that, then we go ahead and do these parties anyway. And then it kind of attracts. You were talking earlier about sexual aggression and predators there, and then they come in there and they do whatever they want, and it does not become so much of a safe space for a lot of the kids anyway. I'd like to point out something that I think is kind of important. There's an OBNL here in Montreal called Le Collectif Social. I don't know if you guys heard about them. They have this amazing program called Commander un Angelo, which is kind of like a code thing. Basically, it's a program that trains bartenders and bouncers and basically event creators to really identify somebody who's kind of being in danger and stuff. They've trained about 200 bars in Montreal at the moment, and I'm really happy to say that Fierté Montréal is the first festival that's actually going to be going through that training. So and I really think you guys should. I'm going after the thing. I'll give you but they do it for free. It's really important. I think it's something that we should all do. That brings me to the next question. How can the queer nightlife scene continue to exist and thrive and develop sustainably? After all this stuff we just spoke about, permits and things and all that. Do you want to go, Eliane?
Well, okay. So one solutions or one way, I'll say let's say what I've been doing with my own company for now.
Best examples.
Yeah.
Of course.
My company's the best, but okay. So two things that I've started doing, but that's once again it's on an individual / community level. So the first thing that I do is that by now, after 3 years, I've built a few collaborations with venues in Montreal. And it means that now I have access to some discounts when I want to rent the venues. And so I made a list of those venues, and every time I meet another a queer organizer or an organizer, I tell them okay, I have access to this space, this space, this space, this space, and I'll rent out the venue under my company's name. My logo doesn't need to be anywhere. You can ask, but then you get my price, and you get my insurance, and you get all of whatever legal component you need to throw your event. So that's a first thing. Then the other one I forgot, so maybe if someone wants to jump in, and I'm gonna jump in again.
If you remember it, you can always jump back in.
Like, I'll jump back in.
You wanna go?
Well, to me, there is no death. There will never be a death of the queer scene. It will always keep going. It started out as a revolution, meaning it will always keep going because, as I said, the fight is never over. And the beautiful thing about the queer
Can I get
scene,
an amen up in here?
the beautiful thing about the queer scene is that it's about community, and that's my thing. As long as I feel like my intentions are always very clear, and that's the thing that I love is transparency. I'm always very transparent as to what is going on, where is the money going, why are we holding certain events, who is it catered for. I always make sure that this is very much public information, where I do not do these events for myself. I really do it out of love that I have for the community. I'm inspired by community. I do it for the community. And as long as the community is aware of this and knows this, they're very appreciative, they're very grateful, and they'll always let me know, how can I help out? How can I reach out? So every event, my network gets bigger and bigger because people believe in the vision. People want it to continue. They want it to keep going, and they want to help assisting. And that's the thing, just us helping each other out. The same way for me to get information to start off, I had to ask a bunch of other organizers. But it's the same way that I will always share that information too. I will never gatekeep anything that I've learned. I will always pass it on. And that is how I feel like we're going to always keep thriving and always having these types of open, honest discussions with people in the scene and outside of the scene, because the same way they said the other one, like, knowledge is power, and it's part of our legacy. It's part of what we're leaving for the city of Montreal. And the same way a museum is important, the same way a historical building, the same way as to what are people actually doing in this city also matters. It's the same thing that people are going to tell, their relatives, their grandkids, oh, back in the day, I used to party and do all these things over there. It's part of the history. We're part of Montreal, just like everyone else.
Amazing.
And I feel like the more that is acknowledged and the more that it's heard, then the more people can take part in it and take part of the beauty that's in it to help keep it going.
Yes. Charlie, how you wanna?
That's
do,
right. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah. Okay,
Did you
so
wanna
the
finish it?
yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so the second point is, so as I said earlier, we at Voulez-vous Production, we mostly work with emerging artists, and I'm a big fan of the passation of intergenerational knowledge. So we often will book let's say headliners that have 5 to 10 years of experience with newcomers to the scene. And in order to make sure that those party spaces are also safe learning spaces where people don't just get away with bad behavior because of their clout, this year we've created an artist agreement because also, like, I always like to say, like, I basically manage strippers. So I work with burlesque artists, I work with people that get half naked, that are in very, like, vulnerable position just by the fact that they're not clothed, they're not really wearing a lot of clothing, and that can be seen as like, oh, well, that's a free pass. No pasaran, that doesn't work. So artists and workers that are going to be working with us are going to be asked to sign this agreement that clearly states that they're there to work, they're not there to flirt, they're not there to harass anyone, they're there to party together. After that, if you meet someone on the dance floor, some dancer, some DJ, you love their vibe, you love their sound, good. Exchange numbers and go for coffee. But once when you're working, and you're here for your safety and everyone else's.
Those are really great ethics. Charlie, I'd like for you, I think we're running a little bit out of time, so I'd like for you to finish us with how do you see the future? I feel like we're kind of going there anyway. So the future of the queer nightlife.
Honestly, for me, what I see for a future, I find that we're lucky in Montreal because it's like such a young city in terms of like transitive students and everything. And I feel like young people always bring such a great energy. But when you're an old faggot like me, getting in your 30s, you don't want to be at 3 a.m. like outside in the cold, like trying to look for an after party and everything. You want to get to a party that has a great production and that is allowed to like last as long as you can. So I find that like, to me, the future is in a better law framework to like be able to party for longer and better. So props to Montreal, 24, because like they're really doing great work on that front. And I find, for me, the future of this scene is there for queers and for everyone. But
Party longer and better.
oh, just like party, just a party longer and better.
Of course, yeah, for sure. Amazing. Well, when we met the other day, I really kind of, I was saying how I feel like, our society is really in a bit of there's sort of like a soft spot right now. There's a great enthusiasm, there's great optimism, everybody's coming back, everybody's happy to see each other. I think it's a really good opportunity for the authorities and the city and to really kind of get together to really see how we can you can sort of like direct and suggest like better ways of accommodating the queer nightlife scene. I don't know if we have a little bit of time for some Q&A or are we is this good or no, we're done? Yeah, okay. We're done? Yeah, we good?
Anyone wants to ask one last
I don't
question?
know if there's anybody who has any kind of question for us up here. No one? Yeah, great. Yeah, oh, there's one.
Hello. Thank you all for doing this. This is great. I didn't really think my question through very clearly, but I want to ask a question a bit about venues because I feel like there's a lack of venues, a lack of spaces to be throwing queer events in the city, and we end up having to go to places where we don't know if these like club owners or these these spaces are actually queer friendly. And we're often like trying out new spaces, trying out new things, or like doing things in a park where like it's going to get shut down by the police very quickly and they're going to bother us. What do you all think we can be doing as promoters, as party planners, to like make sure and support each other in finding spaces that are safe for queers to be in?
Marilyn, you want to take that?
Well, just basing myself just on the effects of this pandemic of COVID, so many restaurants and bars and event spaces had to be closed for such a long time, meaning a lot of debt was accumulated. Some of them eventually had to close down, and now they're trying to, get back up and revive. And I think a great thing that they should do is be more open-minded in trying to collaborate with us, because I feel like right now it's mostly us trying to go towards them, and as if they had not even thought about sharing their space, even though we can bring them money, especially if they have a bar. We could be like, you get to keep most of the money for drinks, we just take an entrance fee, and that's a great way where that can help rejuvenate their business, because before people were going to their bars or venues as like, oh, this is my go-to spot every Friday. But the last 2 years, they've mostly been closed, meaning now you're not the go-to spot that people are thinking about. People are mostly focusing on where's it fun, where's the events, meaning us, we can travel, we can move things around, while a bar and restaurant cannot. They don't have that availability, that accessibility, meaning they should definitely think about collaborating with us, hearing more of our ideas, and trying to find a middle ground. And I think it could be a win-win for both of us.
Amazing collaboration. You have a quick thing to say? Yeah.
For me, it would be more tolerance for like parties that are outside from the police, from the city, just because like it's literally communal spaces we need as queers. And they're being repressed as any parties. And I want for everyone to be able to have parties outside, like not just the queer in a past because we're queer, but like specifically for us, we fucking need it. Also, I find that what's hard is keeping venues and parties cheap because like the real estate is getting out of control, and the city is putting a lot of money in their pockets because if the real estate is going up, also the taxes are going up, and that sounds great for them, but it fucks us up for everything, and even in terms of like as individual being able to like stay and afford the city. So I'm calling it cap. Like, please, just like cap the prices. Like, try to like restrain the foreign investment because like if we want to keep the the few venues we have, and if we want to keep it cheap and accessible, it's essential.
Eliane?
Okay. So one solution, like amongst promoters, would be like, I think, let's just create a Facebook group and like tell each other like, oh, I went there, like share our experiences and kind of vouch for venues. And also, I guess now it's the time that I pitch the fact that with Voulez-vous Production, we are envisioning a queer cultural space / a bar that's centered around the sapphic experience. And we'll be working on everything is super expensive, but we'll figure it out at this point. Like we've been many organizers, we've been meeting since the beginning of the year to try and figure out like what that space could look like and where it could be established and where are we gonna get the money. And I mean let's say that I've figured out many ways throughout my lifetime to find the money for such projects. So yeah, that's it.
Is anybody from the city again, if you're here? Well, thank you guys so very much for your time and wisdom and insight and for all that.
Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gleb.
And thank you for Montréal 24/24 for having us, Mon Numéro National. And thank you guys so much. And cheers. Godspeed.
Woo! Yeah. Well, thank you for being accepting our invitation. Merci beaucoup. Moi, je souhaite un espace pour la communauté queer où un gars blanc straight-ish comme moi va se faire virer de bord à la porte. Ça prend ça dans une ville. J'aurais peut-être besoin de vous une fois de temps en temps pour rentrer, mais je vais faire les derniers mots de clôture. Mais on a appris beaucoup de choses dans les 2 dernières journées. On a touché à plein de trucs, plein de sujets. Puis je veux vraiment vous remercier d'avoir été là. Aujourd'hui, on était un peu plus informel. Hier, j'avais mon suit, il y avait la ville. Pour nous, toute l'équipe, là, ça a été, c'est quand même 5 mois de travail qui culminent aujourd'hui. En fait, ils vont culminer aussi en fin de semaine avec Non-Stop. Donc, je vous invite à venir prendre un verre avec nous après 3 heures du matin pour la première fois de manière légale. J'inviterais peut-être Monsieur Mirek Milan. I would like to invite Mirek Milan. Maybe tell us a few words about your experience of the summit, what you've discovered in Montreal. Maybe it's nice to have somebody, an outside point of view to everything we did. So, there you go. Because when we met a few years ago, we started from scratch.
Hello? Okay, yes, I'm here. Hey, do you want me to go straight ahead, or shall we have a bit of a conversation?
No, go straight ahead. I think everyone wants to have a beer, so.
Yeah. No, of course, first of all, I applaud you all, everyone, Laura, Matt, the whole organization, Montreal 24/24, for bringing this together and bring this amazing group of people together for this conference. So big applause for everyone here, for yourself, for doing this. What I think is really great is you've built momentum. You've built the momentum by investing a lot of time and effort and explaining to people that you are a good partner. You're a good partner to the city. You're a good partner to the scene and to the industry. And that's what gives you relevance. And now last year with the summit, of course with the funding coming through, now this year with the summit, and of course, which I'm very happy about, is that we can do the research together, the economic impact study that you've done. And the time is right, the time is right to keep driving this conversation forward. I just had this conversation that, of course, you see that there's what I understand now, there's definitely also a big scene of not everything is happening in a legal or in a permitted venue. So that's also something that we have to. What does that dynamic mean for a city? How can we integrate that also in our thinking? but it gives a certain dynamic, and it gives a very fertile feeding ground for talent development, because this is there's an easy access point. You don't need to then directly sell out a big space or sell 1,000 tickets or sell 400 tickets. So I think there's a lot going on. I see a lot of passionate people being involved, and there's the road ahead is long, but you're really doing it and going into the right direction. So thank you all for having us here, and thank you for a great conference.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us this week. And I'm sure you'll see tomorrow at the party a lot of the artists, yes, that will be performing, mostly perform in illegal venues. But this brings, you're totally right, a certain vibrancy to this city that makes it a bit special and unique, I think, in northeastern part of North America. So thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
So finally, I just want to thank. Well, okay, yeah. I want to thank the team, and I'd like I'd like for them to come with me sur la scène, parce que tout ce what we've done for 5 months. I mean, I'm like the face and voice of all of this, but I mean, I would be nothing without these people, especially my work wife Laura, who's helping with programming. Martin, who's helping me with development and getting funding, Andrea at production, Yannick at communication, Pierre and Elisabeth, who helped us also with project managing, and Bruno, who was in charge of getting us fed and drink, when we needed it. This has been a great ride, and I really want to thank you all for being here, and thank you all here for being here. Let's take a quick picture before we leave. And hopefully, when we be back next year, we will have a nightlife policy, and that caters to our need, and things will be changed. So, thank you. Bye bye. All right, drink. A lot of work.